And there's the office. I think there's like one female in the entire like office area. You go back into where the shops and the rest of the plant and everything is, and there's a different vibe. You don't have that chaotic politic vibe, just simply of the absence of women. It's like somebody come up to you, hey, I need this done. Yeah, you get it done in a story, no complication.
Nice.
There's the office. I think there's like one female in the entire like office area. You go back into where the shops and the rest. I hear an echo, delayed one. And there's a different vibe. You don't have that chaotic.
You must have the YouTube on or something, maybe.
Ah, it's not on. That's weird. It's like delayed though too.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta.
Maybe that's transversible.
Yep, I do the same mistake every single time. And that's it. I do it every time. Hello,
I was like, who's that asshole interrupting me?
Yeah,
it was me.
That was you interrupting you. Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. This is the second part of the podcast, or the second podcast for the day, and the Sunday hangout. And I hope everybody's day's going okay. I see we got 7 in right now already. And right now I got a misanthropic altruist. Are you still going by altruist or?
Just call me Ma. Just call me M.A. I don't care.
M.A.? Okay. And then we got male feelings, which we can call M.F.
M.A. and M.F.
M.A. and M.F. And then Trav or T.M. Okay. Yeah, we were just talking about the pussy pass and how women get the pussy pass and how things, and like Misanthrope was saying, how things get all screwed up in office spaces with an overage of lighter than air workers. So do you have that a lot in life?
Oh, I've dealt with it a hell of a lot because of I've been for a long time, over 15 years, I was in hotels. So whether it was guest or a majority of female staff, yeah. always, and it's always been. And here's the thing: it's always the same thing, different people or so-called different people. It's always like the super bitch, and then the cute one that doesn't have to do anything because she's got 1 or 2, male employees that do shit for her. I mean, it's the same old story. And then when you go into corporate kind of stuff, it's basically the same, just more people and more bullshit. So.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. There's always some kind of weird. There is a system, and I don't know if you want to. Is there a system with women where they have the alpha, the beta, the zeta, the omega? Do they have that system? I want to kind of get that in my mind, but I can't wrap my mind around it.
When you say like maybe if there is a system like that, and maybe it kind of just works out, but I would think that the zetas would either be the actual owner of the business or company, or they get fired. One of the two.
Yeah, I think one of the things about the alpha and about that is a lot of times we think like the alpha is like in charge, but what you find is that women they absolutely do that, but they do it strategically. They anoint kind of the alphas, and then they feed off of them basically, or they basically anoint guys who they know are gonna like give them special treatment. And that's how. So the alpha is basically appointed and anointed by the collective of females, and they know that they're pulling the strings, and they know that he's gonna cover for them, and that's basically the pattern that I see repeating.
Oh yeah, or the pretty girl, and they got the pretty pecking order too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which one's the best looking or perceived best? And I found in my life that women have no idea which one's the best looking. And sometimes they get that so wrong. They think the strong one, or the one that dresses properly, or the one that always has the groovy clothes on, or something. And their idea of that is, and then they'll be talking about, oh, she's so pretty, and the guys will be looking at each other like, wow, she's not really that pretty. And then you look at the one that, and it's weird because men, when they perceive neoteny, it's the lacy green look one, the one that looks kind of sickly and puffy, like she always has a cold or something.
Right.
Men go for that, and but women don't see that. And it's sort of like men do. If you ask me what a good-looking man looks like, I can't tell you. I mean, I have no sexual attraction to men, and sometimes I just totally get that wrong. Like that guy probably does okay with women, and they look at me like, nah, Joe, you got that one wrong.
This Prickled Mantis asks an interesting question here. He says, what do you guys think of alphas on Vine?
Alphas on Vine. What is that? That's I'm missing the concept.
Yeah, I don't really.
Is he talking about the trends or something, like the internet trend videos or some shit?
Yeah, I think he's talking about Vine, the video service.
Oh, Vine.
I'm not on Vine much, Prickled.
Yeah, me neither. So.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know what Vine is. Is there? Do they have TV personalities on that, or is that a?
No, it's just like normal. It's like Twitter, but with videos.
Oh, Twitter with videos. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whew.
Just short, like 15-second clips of a bunch of shit people take.
I have to look that up, see what that actually is. Vine, is that sort of like a what first came out when you just did short video calling, and then and it was usually just guys putting their cocks on there.
That's what I still do. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. And, no.
What's more interesting than my cock? Come on.
Yeah, the Tumblr of the photo Tumblr thing. It came out. It was really big, and I think they banned it because there were so many guys. Here's my junk. Oh God.
The Snapchat, right?
Like Vines are usually videos you see rappers being held down. That's pretty funny. 15 minutes of my, or 45 seconds of my rapping skills.
Let's hear it, Traversable.
Oh no, I am the worst rapper in the whole world. You don't even want to hear me rap. I do it to my kids. One's 24 and one's 18. I'll do it around them once in a while just to embarrass them.
I bet you that's successful, huh?
Yeah, that successfully embarrasses them, and they do whatever I want. I get just to shut up. No, I have no rapping skills. We do have some rap. Who is Universal Studios?
No holds barred, right?
No holds barred raps. One guy was a rap video. It was actually halfway decent. But rap is sort of Mgtow, isn't it? It's
I used to be in the business as an activist, promoter. I used to do event coordination. So I've dealt, going back to the late '90s. I've dealt with a lot of artists and rappers and whatnot. So and now I can safely say at 36, there's no semblance of whatever you want to call that music now. It's not the same. It's shit.
All big business now, and America's greatest entertainment now. Yeah.
Well, think about it. Like, one of the reasons why you could make the connection between MGTOW and hip hop is because it came out of the gate perceivably really misogynistic, and it had a lot to do with bravado, and it had different ways of being bravado. Like whoever could come up with the most clever, cool lyrics was cool, and then it kind of evolved in who came up with the most illustrious kind of inner city street stories and so on and so forth. But now it's feminized. It's a bunch of thug homos, to be quite honest with you.
I seen it. There was a commercial the other day, and I seen there was this little dollhouse the guy had just got done making for his daughter, and then a little rapper came out. He was just like 2 feet tall rapper, and then I was like, is this a rapper? He's gay, and he's feminized, and the guy, he supposedly made the dollhouse with a little wrench. It was about 3 inches, which was kind of cool. He says, "You did that with the little wrench," and he said, "Yep, I did."
How many come back when it started? You could have like gay rappers, but nobody knew they were gay, and you could say what you want about that. But I think what I take exception to is that like in the fashion, even in the bravado itself now, it's all pussy begging, and it comes across because they talk, about slipping mollies and this, that, and the third. But there's such a focus on women, whether you get them because you're a pimp or you're struggling because you got so much money and no one understands you. That seems to be big right now. No one understands you because you're so rich. So you're sad. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, big. We had the I got 24 bitches I got 24 problems and a bitch ain't one. That was good stuff. That was real Mgtow stuff. And we had
Yeah.
the Tupac thing, which Tupac was like he's seen the gynocentrism, and he talked about the guy. It was probably long before. It was long before Mgtow was even around too. Tupac was like talking about the gynocentrism, uh, but he couldn't articulate it. There were no words like we have. We have all our catchphrases and words that we use to articulate ideas, and but he didn't have that. Was it Phil G just put up a on Borowski, I think it was, and Borowski was a Mgtow too, and he just couldn't articulate it.
Mm.
And
Right.
yeah. Who is the biggest artist you ever worked with, Mrs. Thrope?
Oh, wow. How much of this do I want to get away?
Without giving yourself.
I'll name off some names, but I'll either directly work with them or met. I won't distinguish that because there's no need. So I've had the I unfortunately had to work with Hammer as his career was falling. And then I worked with a lot of East Coast gangster rappers like MC8. And then on the plus side, I've actually kind of worked with or had some contact with, like, mostly over the phone kind of dealings with Chuck D, KRS-One, cats like that. So, and everybody in between, but mostly my thing was a lot of underground West Coast stuff, which, back in Oakland in around 97, 98, 99, it was kind of the golden age of hip-hop, and that was like the mecca at that point. You had Hieroglyphics and all these phenomenal artists coming out all at once. So, unfortunately, and awesome, it's an awesome thing. I was able to kind of be there as some of it was occurring. So.
Okay, and that was just booking small halls and clubs and stuff, and making sure everybody got their fill of, if you're going to go out, you had a place to go out in the city. So they had to have so much in the town, and you split up the demographics, and yeah.
But I entered in kind of a back pedal or back doorway because, like, I wanted when I was young, I started writing poetry, and I got on to listening to hip hop, and I started to write rhymes, and I guess I wanted to be a rapper, and I tried my hand at everything: graffiti, breaking, all of it. DJing, I did that and made beats for a while, but somehow I kind of fell into the background and I became more of an organizer and getting things together, that kind of a thing. So.
Okay, that takes a lot of money. I did know an organizer when I was young, and she lost. It was a woman, and she lost quite a bit of money in the game.
There's no excuse for a woman to lose money in hip hop if they know. I mean, here's the thing: if you're already gynocentric and you're an extremely weird music, pretend it's kind of a circle, there's no reason a woman cannot make money in hip hop, especially now. Like, there's absolutely no reason.
Yeah, she was booking and doing stuff like that, and what had happened is she put a huge amount of money into a big concert event, and Belkin Music slipped in and did another event that was bigger on the same day, and then she took a huge loss on it, and then she was out of the game. And
you can get washed out real quick, and if you don't have your own money, you're often going to have to know how to network and kind of piece together from one person to the other, and it's a lot of negotiating, a lot of backdoor shit. But that's not just hip hop. That's just the music business. Half of it's shady, half of it's financed by illegal shit. It's a really crazy and intense world. A lot of people don't last in it. So.
Yeah, there was just an article on Up Today about some lady who apparently is a real bitch, but she's like a big player in the hip-hop area. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it. Like a businesswoman, like a mogul type, or was it an artist?
She's a manager.
Yeah.
On Drudge.
So what did she have to say about that? Was it did you read it, or you just kind of
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if there was anything to it, but it's basically just she's like a Devil Wears Prada type, and like a real just a bitch to everybody. But yeah, here it is. Why Eminem's agent is the most feared woman in music.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Never met her, never had to deal with her, but I know who you're talking about. So.
Kara Lewis.
I was there to see Eminem go from shit to where he was. I actually saw the event that propelled him into his status, kind of like what was in 8 Mile, but the real version of that. I was actually in LA. He was at the Rap Olympics, and he was going against my crew because I was down with this, I guess, crew or nonprofit org or whatever you want to call it. We had a bunch of rappers, and he was there, and he won the whole thing. And it was interesting, and it was very Mgtow how he won it because at the end, it was between him and a woman before he would go against a guy named Juice.
Okay.
And I forgot her name, but she was from, where was she? From this big LA underground crew. Anyway, she pulled the race card on him. And this was a room that was filled with mostly black men. But look, what I just said is men. So because she pulled the race card, he pulled the sex card and actually totally devastated and won because he didn't suck her down or whimper down on that race card shit. So.
You talk about Eminem, right?
Yeah, and this was the event. Somebody was in that same crowd at the Rap Olympics. I think it was '97, something like that. And somebody was in the audience, and that weekend they told Dre that he was on the radio. Then he met Dre, and then he got signed, and the rest is history.
Okay, yeah.
OG Mgtow right there. I wouldn't.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's a good story.
Yeah, true too. I was there. I was like the only white. I was like one of the only other white guys in the entire audience too. So I thought that was kind of cool. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, Eminem, he could have easily been a Mgtow with the problems he went through with his wife and her having a drug habit and trying to take care of the kids and trying to make a business go and the problems with that. And I don't see it as he doesn't have a misogynistic bone in his body, I don't think, but
yeah.
But he could have easily went the way of Mgtow.
Yeah, had Mgtow got to him earlier, been there for him, I guess things could have been a lot smoother in his life.
Well, and he'd gone through a lot of problems. Seems like he bounced back. He was into drugs for a long time, and I think I don't know if he ever got remarried or if he's with somebody. But at the same time, imagine his lifestyle. I mean, he's got so much money and influence, and so his circles are going to be like Rihanna and shit. And so, I mean, how do you be Mgtow and at the same time resist top-notch quality pussy that everybody else wants to bang? I think that would be an interesting trip to go through as a Mgtow.
Yeah, it's like the Bill Burr skit, right? Where he's like, he's saying like, all these government politicians who are coming down on Tiger Woods for cheating on his wife, and he's like, as if these pasty shithead politicians know what it's like to be tempted at that level,
Yeah.
Yeah. She beat him with a golf club outside of the house and never even went to jail or never even spent a moment in cuffs, did she?
Well, it's interesting if you kind of look at like the tabloids and even newspapers at this point, because I think we're in an era where it's becoming more and more difficult to distinguish between tabloid media and regular media. And so whenever there's a report like, a couple ends, especially celebrity couples end, and if he cheated or something like that, he's always admonished. But when the woman cheats, it's because he didn't do something right. He wasn't there for her, so she had to cheat. You know what I mean?
It's so rich. It's so deep and pervasive the way that is. I mean, they can do the whole thing with like, you got to make her happy, right? That's where it all starts from. It's all if the premise of a relationship is so one directional. That's how they define it, right? That's how society currently defines the relationship, is that the male is to make the female happy. And so therefore, if the relationship doesn't work, it's because the male failed to do whatever X, Y, and Z would otherwise have made the female happy. So yeah, you're just fucked from the beginning.
Yeah, a lot of
the interesting thing about that is that I don't think ever that I've met a genuinely authentic, happy woman on her own terms, where she was already happy when you meet her. Mm-hmm. But in the course of my life, I've met some happy men, and usually they live a little bit outside of the realm of the rest, how other people do shit, and that is probably why they're happy.
It's interesting because ever since I was pretty young, I've always been kind of like, I've just always found eccentric men to be the most kind of what I thought was the interesting way to live. Not like, like just men who are a little bit off the beaten path.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And we just seen a good example of the way men perceive things and the delusion that they will go to in their head with Stephen Mullinex. And I was at the end of the last podcast, I kind of went off a little like I hate that guy now. And he looked at that. Did you see the new film Making of a Murderer?
No, I've heard about it though.
Yeah, and they went through all the steps and everything that happened on with this guy and how he ended up doing what he did. He didn't do it, and then at the Stephen Mullinex goes over this, and he starts drawing these little parallels to how the girl he could have raped her, and he could have did this, and he was taking that male that beggar attitude, that pussy beggar, and giving all the girls the passes. And then saying, well, yeah, they're horrible people. And however the media portrayed him and he's like, oh, these are just horrible people, and he could have did that. But he was going deep into his head to try to justify that this guy did do it.
Yeah.
And that's the male delusion you get around there, and that's the thing that causes the silver bullet, we call it. Women only have to say you did something for it to be believed, and then you have to prove that you didn't do it. Instead of the burden shift is burden there because of the male the pervasiveness of the male to defend the woman in any situation.
Yep.
Then it's burden shifting.
I am so shocked that, look, when we go to school, in grade school, you learn about the Inquisition. You learn about the Magna Carta or whatever, everything in history that led up to the point where we realize, innocent until proven guilty. Duh, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it has to be. Otherwise, we're all fucked. Yet today, all these social justice warriors, injustice, whatever, they're coming out of grade school, they're coming out of university. They that simplest thing where one person's word against the other, and they're like, just trust. You take the woman's word at face value, and it's so ridiculous,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so ridiculous.
Pants on Fire just said chicks beat up men. Everybody makes fun of them. Did you see Mayor of Mgtow's last video?
Real recent. I saw one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he opened up with this kid. He's in a playground, and there's 4 girls beating this kid up. And I was wondering when I was watching that, it was horrible. And he was a smallish male, and the other males were kind of gathered around the girls doing this, and they were punching him, and they ripped open his shirt, and they were pinching his nipples and stuff, and just torturing this kid. And that happens a lot on the school grounds. But I was wondering, like, at that point, it was just weird to see how many people would say that kid deserved that somehow.
Yeah.
All those men that were sitting on the outside were saying that boy deserved that because he was a smallish male, or he couldn't defend himself, or he needed that to grow up, or they were going to give an excuse, one of those delusional male excuses on why he deserved that.
Yeah.
And it just screwed me up. I was like, wow, that's
disgusting.
how our society. Yeah, it's disgusting. That's how our society works.
Well, I mean, it's 2016, and most schools, like even in the policy, whether it's direct or indirect, but the actions that take place is whenever there's like some sort of violence or harassment between boys and little girls, you will typically find, despite the circumstances, the boy will be either suspended or, thrown out of school. And it's never really probed into, well, did the girl hit him first, or this, that, and the third, and it's just dropped like that. It's because even though it's 2016, even though fucking, all equality, men and boys are always seen as the aggressor in all circumstances, and the word's always going to be taken on behalf of them.
That's a great point, and it's horrible. It's just horrendous, and it brings up. Turd Flinging Monkey was talking in his last video. I'm just going to try and relate this here. You guys can see if it works. But it was a good video, and I a lot of what he said was great. But I want to deal with his point that females are always going to ask for more, and so it's essentially men's fault for giving it to them, right? And I think
collectively as men, we have a responsibility, and then but as individually, and this is where Mgtow comes in, is that we have the option not to be responsible for that. We can, basically hold out and not give in to that. But still, it's collectively. It's like attitudes. It's a cultural phenomenon. How do we fight back against that? Can we really? And should we? And if all we can do is just go our own way, then how do we do that in a way and still live in society and not get completely, trucked up by it all? So.
Yeah. The perfect situation would actually be if, when a female in school and it develops where if they start hitting a boy, they get equally punished, and then it proves an amount of equality, and it holds them responsible and accountable. And we often talk about accountable and responsible in here, but from the youngest age, they get told that they're not responsible for their actions. They're not responsible for what's in between their legs. They're not responsible, and it's always the men's fault, and no matter what, it's the men's fault. And that grows, and then we wonder why we have these systems of gynocentrism in our court systems, and our we were talking about this earlier. I told the story about my wife running into a car with my marquee, my Mercury marquee, and ruining it. And she went to the court and she brought the judge cookies, and that was good. She got a minimal slap on the hand, and the judge. So that judge was pre-tempered to appreciate the neoteny. She was a good-looking woman. She offered him cookies, and all of a sudden the criminal offense was gone. But we get that from the very first day in school, where boys are set at the desk, and if they start running around, they're saying, no, you're not allowed to be a boy. Yeah. And you got to respect this woman, and whatever you do, it's going to be your fault. And we get pre-primes for that.
Absolutely. And that's why I think this idea of, it's that ultimate, because a lot of people will take this position. It's also like a conservative position, conservatives. But everyone will always say, the reason that feminism exists is because men allow it to exist. Now, there is some truth to that, but I think you gotta, it's not the whole truth, because the fact is that all of these things, these gynocentric things, and the demands that females make, they're all an act of aggression. So you take like men would be fine, but females, they come to take. And so it's to the extent that, so when men give these, give affirmative action and give, all these government handouts to women, it's their fault, but they wouldn't be doing it if women weren't, taking that initial step of demanding it and asking it and trying to take it. So I think,
here's the thing. Not only it's men's fault, but in other different ways, in subtle ways. For instance, and I think what really stems back is the birth control. I think the paradigm shift, once we created effective birth control, is often overlooked, because what we did is that we took this species, this half of the species, the woman, who is inherently selfish, but not selfish necessarily just for herself. Like, she's supposed to gather resources because she's going to have kids, and she needs to administer those resources to the kids. That's how it's set up biologically in all species, including ours, and with women of our species. However, when we give them this thing, we're sending a message: hey, this prevents you from having kids, but you're still that being. So you're going to still get resources and still have the mentality of being that kind of inclined to be selfish, yet you don't have to have responsibility anymore. And that was the paradigm shift. Nobody saw it that way. They just saw it as like, oh, now we can population control, all these really great benefits, which it did have. But on the flip side, we sent a message, and only could the feminism that we see now be born from that message that we originally sent. And we invented that shit.
I completely agree with the significance of the pill is difficult to even grasp. It's absolutely changed because you took all that biology and then you just unleashed it in a way that was not possible before.
Yeah, I mean, and we see it now, and like, Mgtow even make video about it, like about hitting the wall and stuff. How there's so many women right now, 30s, 40s. They've had a career. They were selfish. They were riding the fucking dick carousel their whole lives, and then they finally stop. They feel lonely, and they want to have kids, and nobody, and they can't find an appropriate suitor because there's nobody to go up, especially if they're successful women like in corporate America and whatnot. There's no one to go up because they're so deluded into themselves. It's like, well, I did it all, and I did it all on my own. Well, now I'm lonely, and I want to have kids because I'm a fucking human being, and it's a biological imperative that I do, but I can't find a suitable man because I have my head so far up my biological and psychological ass. And also, I'm ruined goods because I fucked about 100 men before I decided this,
Yep. Yep, and any man who's stupid enough to come along and take my bait to try and have kids with me, he will be disposed of. Like because the 400 that came before, there's going to be nothing different about the 401, right?
Yeah, how can you measure up to the last 400 guys? Jesus, that's an impossible. It's an impossible task. But even the system at that point, because at that point, you just know that they know the system. It's going to be get on the support, get on the HHS service. Everything's taken care of the next 20, 30 years of their lives. Now, if they've taken it as far as up to almost 40 years old, so she's got a 20-year working history and everything, so her Social Security is going to be, so she should, they can plan this thing out where they can do that next 20 years very easily, fall on Social Security, another social program, and never have to work another day in their life. It's all planning and
right.
Oh God.
Yeah, and that's all these support mechanisms to facilitate that from the government and everything. I think when guys talk about like single motherhood, like basically women. Oh, the pay gap. That's what it is. So that's like the kind of the easy way to summarize all of it. The idea of the pay gap. A lot of times, we don't think about like what they're really saying, because what women are really saying is, I'm going to have kids and somebody has to pay for them. That's the bottom line. That's what they're simply saying, I'm going to have kids, and it's just a question of who's going to pay for them.
Who is going to pay for them? Yeah, that's it.
And so from there you have two possibilities. You can either say, well, if you set up the conventional scenario where the biological father is invested and both people benefit from the kid, and so both people contribute to the kid, and that's the conventional family, right? But what women want to do is they want to basically dehumanize men and say there is no sort of individual male who gets the benefits of the child and then contributes the costs. Okay, so it's like he's getting something in return for what he's paying into it, because he's his own kid. He's getting to raise his own kid, right? What they want to do is they want to offboard that from any individual male to the collective, nameless, faceless mass of males, and just have them pay for for their kids, right?
Yeah, that's the sexual cryptis, where they think all the males in the community, and it is that way. All the males in the community think that the baby's theirs. All the men in the community act like that. When you see a judge doing that in court, there's a reason why he's doing that in court, because he's just doing what he's programmed to do, and he thinks he's acting in a fatherly role for the children. And what he's saying is, this male is not the father no more. I have to act in a fatherly role, so I have to put the other male in a situation where he's paying whatever he can get, whatever they can get, and the Health and Human Services will pick that up. And most people don't know how that system works. And it's a system that can entrap a male for the rest of his life to the system. So he's thinking of his best interest and how he can keep his job, the female's job, and just throwing the women under the bus, or throwing the men under the bus. And it works out very well for that community, but the men aren't in that community. And what we're saying is, no, let's take a little responsibility and accountability for this, women. But that's not going to happen. And I think you think they'll ever have responsibility and accountability?
Absolutely not. And look at, like, I mean, I don't know why it popped in my head, but something you guys were saying. The story of Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's a woman author, right?
Okay, yeah.
The story of Frankenstein. Like, if you look at it superficially, you know, great story, blah, 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 humanity, you know, man creates, you know, monster, blah, 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 all the tropes. But there's actually, we were given a couple pearls of truth there that we don't really look at it. And if you look at it in like a Mgtow or a red pill lens, it's a different story. So a man creates another kind of man in his image, a monster pieced together by other men, right? That doesn't go too well. You know, it was a great accomplishment, but it doesn't go too well because the man actually has a little bit of empathy for this created man, this subject, right? So he creates a female version. And what was the reaction of the female to the male monster? Horror, right? Even though she's the same fucked up, ghastly beast.
Yeah.
She has horror. She has no self-awareness to the level that men do. And even a creative monster man, because actually there's a lot of undertones, and it was written by a woman, so I got props for this. But the actual monster had compassion. You know, there's a scene with the little girl with the movies, and that was there in the book too. It was a little bit more drawn out and whatnot. But I mean, look at that story, and that sends a really strong message. And she kind of gave something away. It doesn't matter, you know, how good you are or how bad you are. A woman will always kind of condemn you. It's in their nature to see you in a unflattering way, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy about that. So
that's a powerful message. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I don't know, just the whole idea of gender being a construct. I mean, it's like, are you guys getting? I just get so much dissonance. You get these two sides. See what you think of it. You know, on one hand, you have the core of feminism is predicated that on this premise that, you know, gender is a construct. Okay, so we're all the same, and then we put on these social costumes that are gender. Okay, but then the modern movement is all these, you know, transsexual, homosexual, whatever sexual. It's all about how if you do not identify me correctly as a correct gender, then I'm going suicidal, right? So it's like the foundation of the whole movement was that gender is irrelevant, and now gender is this hypercritical thing that if you don't get it right, you know, if you don't get their correct gender role accurately identified, then they're going to die. Doesn't that seem weird?
Well, it is weird, and at the end of the day, like, I don't know, like, maybe a man wakes up or not wakes up, maybe he goes through his whole life with a struggle. Well, like, I don't feel quite like a man. I don't really want to be a woman, and then he's somewhere in between, and he wants people to recognize him for that. Like, fine. Like, just fucking go through your life, and when you make friends, tell them you feel that way while you're getting drunk or having coffee or whatever, and if the friend sticks around like, hey, that's cool, you're weird, it's the end, then fine. But
Yeah.
Make it a political thing, and you actually go after legislation and do nonprofit work to actually try to change how things are listed so you have your own little special label. When you're such a fucking small percentage of the population, that's just stupid. It's absolutely stupid. So
it's like massively narcissistic and megalomaniac. You know, everybody go out of their way for me. You know, it's like, I don't care what gender anybody is. I can give half a fuck. You could be one thing today, something tomorrow, wear a costume. I don't care. Nobody cares, right? But why is it made this political thing, right? And the reason it's just to support feminism. It just keeps the emotional power of feminism in the consciousness, you know?
I mean, if you want to look at it, and it is a small population, I guess it's worth mentioning, but, like, you know, transgenderism, I mean, there's enough of them to have a movement if they want, but it's already been affected by feminism. Some of them are getting hip to this fact. Like, oh shit, and they have problems with it. But it's really up to them as a community, whoever, and how they want to self-identify and self-group, for them to figure it out, you know. And I don't know, to try to engage the rest of the world as if this is a hotbed, huge issue. It's not. It's a moot point when it comes to the big picture, in my opinion. So.
Yeah.
Right.
We know the statistics on that. It's 4% in society, and transgenderism is very much less. It may even be 1% of that, of that 4%. And but if you look in the news and you look at what they're pushing, that's the new thing, and we see a lot of it around Mgtow, the transgenderism, the idea of transgender, and it's. You could take that idea and make it into anything you want, and it's a beautiful idea, but at the end of the day, you have two sexes, male and female.
And that's what brought this up, right? You made a comment, something to the point of like, the way women see men with that, about the Frankenstein story. If it is true that females have particular characteristics that are idiosyncratic to them, and males do, and of course not as a hard line necessarily, right? But as a very real generalization, then it is only constructive to navigate that by understanding it and working with it, in our lives. And so if you don't teach, pass on the understanding of how women are to men, to males, developing males, and vice versa, I suppose, then you're gonna. Here's, if I may just draw this into a final. It's very much like women, females, as the whole in-group female vagina thing. They really want everyone operating on our base emotional kind of animal impulses, so they want it. They really, underneath everything that's going on, they're tearing down everything that we might learn that may make us operate on a higher level, because they don't really want us to understand females. They don't want us to understand their nature, because they have more power when we don't,
Oh yeah. We started out the conversation before. Sorry about this, guys, but that's how we started out the conversation earlier about the power that's obtained from that, and it's a very male thing in some ways too. Men buy into this; they support it because somehow, there's riches to be made in gynocentrism, and men see that, and they will, they will jump on that, support it. They may not believe it, and they may not. A certain amount of wealth protects you from that too. It protects you from the guy. You can always pay your way out of it, but
totally.
For a good part of 80% of the society, they can't afford to pay their way out of it.
I think that kind of goes into the biggest part, or the hardest part of the pill, the red pill to swallow, and it's a really simple message. Women will never love you the way that you have or even tried to love women. And that's a fucking huge thing to ingest.
It's horrible, man.
It's not just dating or fucking. You're thinking about your mom and your sister and all these relationships that you've had, and you're trying to say, well, how does this truth make sense in my world? My mom doesn't value me in a real way. Well, no, she actually does. She's ingrained to. That's not what we're talking about. She will use you if necessary, but
right.
But I mean, here's the thing. That is what we're up against. Like, this little nugget of truth is fucking devastating. And so it's not going to be. This is not something we're going to decimate easily to other men. We have to use tact in all ways. So.
Well said. Yeah, the whole. So that's why, to some extent, some Mgtow will advocate kind of. Someone the other day was talking about, I met a woman at the bar, and I started telling her all about Mgtow, and I don't think that's. I mean, I'm just gonna. Take a position here and say that's not really the effective way to go, because all it does is basically give them the ability to front run and kind of know, kind of just gives them leverage. So, keeping it, just having tact, doing it, basically just, doing as much as you can as Mgtow without even really directly confronting them, I think is more effective. You know.
Well, I think a lot of MGTOW content producers, even ones you wouldn't suspect, and um, maybe a lot of MGTOW that haven't really talked about it too much, is that the interesting thing is that and maybe there should be a code, and and not everybody's going to follow it anyway, but if we don't release this information and talk to it at random women at bars or mothers or sisters or whoever, it's probably for the better, because I think when we do, it's not because we might trick ourselves and say, oh, I want a bigger conversation about gender, and so I'm going to present these ideas to this woman. And then there's the other approach, which could be like, well, I'm going to make this part of my game, which could be successful. And the reason why that's successful is because we're taking ourselves out of the game. And when you do that, you become a really interesting, peculiar thing. Into the female brain, you're automatic alpha, no matter your circumstances. Because you have this new identity. You actually have self-respect, which is like, what the fuck? They're not used to it, especially in 2016, right?
Yeah, man.
And they look at you, it's a challenge. And what they really want to do, whether they admit it or not, even if they engage and say wonderful things and say, yes, I agree.
They want to conquer you.
Yeah, they want to change you. It's like, my pussy and my words are going to change you, and I'll bring you back to the plantation. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, the idea, so, you might think, you were saying how you might think that if you do engage them on that level, see, men are so sort of honest and forthright and actually do want good things to happen, that they'll actually engage a female thinking that it's on good faith. So they might be, so the male is expressing, here's my concerns, blah, 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 and this is, and this XYZ adds up to that. And he assumes that she's going to regard that in good faith, and if what you present makes sense, then she's going to sort of reciprocate by saying, oh yeah, that's okay, that makes a lot of sense. But they're not. See, all they're going to do is they're going to use it and see, okay, how can I get around that? Okay, so that's where he is, that's where he stands. How can I flank him? You know what I mean? For them, it's all strategy to find a way to, as you were just saying, bring them back on the plantation, right?
Back into
that's the only thing they're going to use it for.
And this could be anyone, yeah.
And unless you, and I know there's a way to kind of have your cake and eat it too, but it goes down to, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the exposure worth the squeeze? Like, if you're exposing yourself for who you are. But then here's the thing: how are you doing it? Are you doing it in good faith because you just want a rapport with another human being, or are you using it as game?
Yeah, exactly. And I think using it as personal empowerment and in the towards, in the vein of game, not necessarily to pick up women, but just to be more effective in life, I think is perfectly the way to go.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like, it's going to be done in all kind of different ways. And it's exciting in a general way, because if Mgtow, and it's slowly reaching this point where it's seeping into the public consciousness. It really is. What I want to see next is film, novels, and shit where the things that we talk about affect the writing and the way that we create media, so that our message in some way triggers thoughts of that fucking 13-year-old kid who got his ass kicked by like a 18-year-old girl, and he sees a movie or something like, oh shit, and then he actually makes life choices where he gets to avoid a whole bunch of pain. Like, that would be awesome if we could do that. It may or may not happen, whatever.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. I completely agree with you. I believe that is the next. That's exactly where we're at. Where you could say it needs to go, it should go, but really, I think it is going. When Sandman talks about making his documentary, I think that's a step in that direction.
Well, I watched an interesting movie just like, oh my god, I think it was 4 days ago, and it was like it's a really weird one. It's like a B movie independent kind of a deal, and it was called Misogynist. And the idea is this: basically, it's this seemingly sociopathic con man who runs into this kid and kind of recruits him to do these like PUA lectures. But it's really aggressive PUA. It's beyond the sex. It's like, this is how you can dominate a woman and control her and get. Anyway, it's a failed Mgtow movie, because the majority of the movie is fucking awesome in some of the stuff they say and do. but at the very end, it becomes a feminist movie.
No shit.
You know what I mean? Because of how it ends. And I'm not going to give you away. I suggest everybody interested in Mgtow watch this movie. Misogynist. It's simple as like the title. So
yeah, look at it in a critical eye. Yeah.
Is that pretty recent, Misanthrope?
It's definitely within the last couple of years. It's a low budget LA movie. I think I saw it on Amazon Prime. I don't know that it's on Netflix though. So.
Is it something where it seemed potentially influenced by like Manosphere, like whoever the director and everything?
Maybe, but it's really weird because there's some other critiques of the movie, like some of the dialogue, and I don't know.
Okay.
You can like I don't know if it was influenced by some of our conversations or not, but it could have. And I don't think it was written by women. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But it's just really interesting how it's so hardcore. They try to give they're trying to do two things. They're living up to the title of the movie, which of course is portraying this misogynist. And the interesting thing is that somehow we've conflated misogyny with sociopathy. It does that a little bit too, and that's actually out there both in the psychological field and in general, society, which is really fucked up, and why we have a difficult time talking to intersectional, like trying to talk to other groups, is because when you say hey, I pride myself, I come first, I'm a male, and I don't want to be subjugated by all this bullshit. That's misconstrued by, oh, you're a misogynist, you hate women. And when that happens, then it's like, well, then you must be a sociopath and you're just a bad guy. Right. And we face that all the time. And some of us, some of the immature or less evolved ones don't do us any favors when we go out and, purposely look for feminists or women in public forums and call them cunts and whores and don't actually get to the meat of any issues. We don't do ourselves service there, but I don't know. It's interesting. The movie was really, it was profound, but I was fucking disappointed at the end because it could have been so much better than that.
Are you familiar with the movie Blue Valentine?
Oh
yeah, that was the feminist guy who made that. Gosling, Ryan Gosling, was it?
Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah.
Gosling's a feminist guy. That's great.
Oh God, he is such a feminist, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly caters to the gynocentric.
Well, I mean, look at that movie Drive. Oh my God, that's like every modern woman's wet dream. I had a kid, I'm a complete fuck up in life, and then this stunt driver is going to come into my life and fix everything.
Oh God, there's so many of those awful movies where it gives women just awful ideas. I always relate to My September with Charlene Theron when she's got cancer.
Mm.
Oh God! And then she runs through all the men, and somehow that's good,
Oh, I didn't see that. Is that what she does?
Yeah, she just runs through all kinds of men, but the cancer is the reason why. Now you got all the, and I'll call it when I see a woman doing that, she'll go, oh, I got cancer, and then she'll start running through men. She's just saying it pretty much, and I call it that my September. Everybody can get a piece of that.
Wow.
But yeah, that movie that you were talking about, was that like a failed PUA? Is PUA just failed Mgtow?
No, well,
no? Okay.
I think it's definitely more. I don't know. I don't think it's that simple. Like a PUA,
I don't think it's that simple, right?
PUA was kind of just like a sleazy thing, even by our modern terms, right?
Right.
And now, because of the advent of the internet, it seems to have gained more momentum and more credibility. And even if you talk to certain kind of Mgtow or even male, activists or whatever, or pimps or gigolos, you're gonna get a different story, and there's a lot of gray area in there. So if someone introduced themselves and said, "Hey, totally support what you guys are doing, Mgtow, but I'm a PUA," I wouldn't write them off necessarily as being an asshole. I just think that they're not doing themselves the service in the long run, because I think PUA is short game, whereas Mgtow is long game. So
that's an interesting perspective. I think that's insightful. I think I have a bit of interesting take on PUA, Traversable.
Okay, good.
Because there's a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of this and that. I think the following, that if we can distinguish two parts of PUA, because I think part one of PUA was men going out in the field and actually bringing back intelligence about female nature. And I think that is very valuable. And a lot of, I think Mgtow owe a lot of what we know to that. So I think, hypergamy and all these things, just the way they operate, the way they see males. You can say that not all of that came from PUA, but I do believe that PUA enriched that understanding a lot. So on that level, I think we should respect and appreciate it. Part 2 of PUA is essentially what do you do with that? And to the extent that you have this sort of, it's more like a cottage industry of, encouraging males to go out and use this information to manipulate women to bed. That is kind of like, it's not that great, to some extent, to the extent that sex is a urge and a need and a desire. There's a fine line between a need and a desire. Right. Sex is a very strong need, whether you want it to, or a very strong desire. Whether or not we classify it as a need is sort of, that's a discussion to be had. But to the extent that it can help men to, a little bit get some, gratification for their sex lives, that's okay. But, the probably 90% taking it to this thing of, making your life revolve around it is not helpful. So that's kind of my take on PUA. I think that part 1 is really valuable. Part 2 is a little bit of it is valuable, and the rest is probably not so good.
And there's some hybrids too, because and I'll offer myself up as being one of them. I got really into Mgtow for a while, and then, but I come from a history of inadvertently blue pill womanizing. It was just kind of my pattern anyway. And then, of course, I've had regular relationships and all, blah, blah, blah. So I've been through the gamut one way or another, and I slid back into it. And I think what I have to offer in the non-PUA, like, the straight up I'm trying to use them, fuck them, where I was like, I still had that fucking human vulnerability of trying to make a connection. I think there's more intelligence, or there's a different kind of intelligence I'm reporting to be had in that. Because that's the part of the red pill that's really hard to swallow. It's shaking that notion they can't love me back.
The reciprocity is not there.
Resenting that and saying, you know what? Well, this one seems like they can love me back. You know what I mean? And so I gave it a try. Fucking totally disaster. And so that's important. And I have details, and I'm still fresh with conversations and encounters with this particular woman. And you know what? I'm going to write it down. I'm going to share it because it's really prevalent. It's current, you know what I mean? And the interesting thing is that whether it's PUA or like Mgtows that kind of step out and fuck up or however we want to perceive it, it's important that we should welcome them back into the fold, because if they tell these stories, we stay current and fresh with what's happening, because even though we know some basic things about female nature, the variables in society are always changing, cultural attitudes and all these other things. And so we need to know what to watch out for and the pitfalls, you know what I mean? So.
I totally agree with that. When you consider the female superorganism as like a giant hydra, it's always adapting, it's always adjusting its tactics. So even as they learn about Mgtow, they're going to make adjustments and evolve their tactics. And so I totally agree that.
I can tell you, I was just like what kind of started my slip up is I was talking to a woman. I knew her from before a long time ago, so it was like reacquainting with a friend. That was the premise, right? And we're talking, we're drinking in a garage, smoking, just being like regular people. And Mgtow, I was really into it, and I candidly shared it. I had no game, no intention. I wasn't fucking with her in any kind of intentional way. But what I realized is when I started talking about it, a glimmer happened in her eyes, and she got wet. She literally got wet, and suddenly this platonic rapport changed, and I didn't expect it. I kind of suspected it a little bit just because, I'm a good-looking guy, whatever, that's ego bullshit. But when I started talking about this, I became more interesting of a person to her, and I think that was part of her motivation to really give me signs, which I took, and then the whole thing went down.
Now, this is you talking about Mgtow, is that what you said?
Yeah, I was talking about Mgtow. I was coming out and like, and so once you go Mgtow, it actually changes the way you tell stories about the rest of your life. So a regular 2016 report between a man and woman, it's really easy to start. You go out to them, you get them to talk, whatever, or if you know them from before, it's easy to do that. And then you start talking about, you know what, dating sucks. It's interesting. Men and women for their own different reasons, will both agree that dating sucks. And this is a conversation where you can go either way. As a Mgtow, you can talk about how you really think it sucks and why, or you can stay away from it. And I chose the former. I said, well, I think kind of dating sucks, and I've been through all these things, partly because of my own choices, and because I am accountable, because I'm a man, and I actually did emphasize that. I'm a man, and I was trained to be accountable, and I'm more accountable now than I've ever been. And then I saw a twist in the eyes with this woman, and she was like, interest. And I'm like, and you know what? You're a person, you're cool, I know you from before, blah, 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 but you're a woman, and you're kind of selfish. And I know that. And she's like, well, that's true. You can deny
it. She said it's true that she's a manipulative whore?
I guarantee you, if you play the conversation in a candid way without too much manipulation, but a little bit, you can get any woman, modern woman right now, to admit, no matter what age, that they are inherently a selfish person. You can make it seem like it's a fun, cute idea for them to share that. But I guess let's not go down.
Yeah. I was gonna. You know why she her eyes lit up when you said you're a responsible male? It's because that's
distinguished. I didn't say responsible. I said accountable. Which
right.
And there is a difference, because I'm not as responsible in the way that I want to be in my own life, and that's a different conversation. But I'm accountable because everything that I did fuck up on, I realize my part in it. Whether external factors, there's always external factors. There's always influences that you have no choice. You got to deal with, and you were dealt, that kind of thing. Those things are there. Women look at those other things like the rest of the world is why I'm at who I am, and a man has the ability to like, well, the rest of the world influenced me, but I always had the power, whether I use it or not, to have fortitude and get through it and be held accountable for my actions. We have a capacity to do that more than women do, simply put. So,
man, take that clip that you just said right there, flip it back, forth, front, and reverse it, and play that over and over again. I think that was really well said.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big thing, man. It's that's the whole. It comes back to agency. Why has civilization always regarded men as having agency, and women as being sort of like floating, like whatever? Because of that very thing. If your worldview is that the world affects you and you affect the world, that has one result. And if your worldview is, I am completely a victim of the world's circumstance, it has a totally different result.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing. Like there's a huge show right now, and it's so lofty and big, and it's one of the reasons why it's popular. It's The Walking Dead, right?
Okay, yeah.
If you look at it through a red pill lens, it's a different kind of story. It's actually still good. I think it can be compelling for both blue pill and red pill, whatever. That's why it's successful. But when you look at the main characters, which are male, and from the beginning, like the first one or two seasons had Rick and Shane, and there was a woman involved, and homeboy, all that stuff. If you guys watched it. And there was this
from the start. It was a divorce case, wasn't it? He was divorcing the wife, and then he was a cop. And
yeah. And so when she thought he was dead, she started fucking this guy, and then zombies are everywhere. It totally makes sense. And the writing actually tries to sympathize with her. And even when I was blue pill, when I first saw the show, I fucking hated him, and I really hated her. Right? I just had that. And then later I revisited it, red pill, and I'm like, I still fucking hate her, but the reason why I hate her is because she is actually representative of most women, and most women would do exactly what she did in those circumstances, and most of the time we would excuse it, but we shouldn't. But anyway, what's more interesting is that this Rick, this upstanding, solid kind of man's man, if there's any such thing, it's the only show that really did do that, was try to show a man's man, blah, blah, blah. He became the asshole, which, after Shane was... I'm going to give too much away with the show. Anyway, after Shane was dead, because he killed his zombie ass, Rick became Shane. And the element that Shane had was, I don't give a fuck. he had this I don't give a fuck attitude. And it was kind of written where there was a nuance between he was a selfish sociopath or he was an honest to good fucking survivor, a.k.a. man. And it played with that real subtly in the writing. I don't know what the writers were thinking. It may have just organically happened.
Right.
But the whole show, the whole series, in my opinion, is a really good starting point, for these conversations. If you do want to talk about it in a really interesting, subtle way, talk about that show with a woman at work or something like that. You know what I mean? Talk about what you think. Let them do the answering. Don't fucking spill the beans. Let them talk. Let them come to the fact that they're
let them tell on what they think about character and quality, and they'll usually say that stuff like they'll imply that they're going to start mimicking the what's needed in that general group to become that woman to get what she wants is resources, and what she wanted was resources, and so she mimicked what she needed to be in that group. To the other man, it looked like that's what she was, but we kind of know better from the backstory that there was this other thing happening. It's an interesting way to look at how to explain to a female what she is, and that's that Winninger says that's the hardest thing for women to accept, and he also says that most of them will reject it thoroughly.
Well, and this is where it becomes really interesting, because I think another issue that's really close to me is sociopathy. Those that have a lack of empathy, and this can happen with men and women. I think women are more inclined, even though traditional psychology would tell you otherwise.
Yep.
But the interesting thing about that is, so women are inherently more selfish, more narcissistic. It's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Men do in certain ways. But knowing that, you can't, not, I don't want to say Mgtow, you can't be a man in society and just trust everybody. Like, oh, well, men are just inherently better. No, because a couple of them out of 10 are going to be sociopaths, and they're going to be just as bad as women, but for different reasons.
Yep.
They're not biological. Well, actually,
yeah, I like to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was failing in my articulation. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Misanthropa, you just had you had a real Mgtow event lately where you were confused about a few things, and you took a little time off. And how'd that go?
Well, to be honest, I'm still coming out on the other side. I'm still coming out on the other side.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that. I got involved. Basically, I got involved with a woman, and it became more than dating. And the moment it became more than dating, I started to become miserable.
Miserable. Okay.
And maybe that's because I had red pill knowledge, and I know what to look after for, and there was mental dissonance and all this. It doesn't matter. But the moment I'm like, I stopped giving a fuck, that I had a struggle to do it. Maybe I was really fighting biology.
This is a really interesting thing. You're so fresh off of it. Did you feel the surge of chemicals? Did you feel that you're into it, and the chemicals came on, the parasitical nature of it came on, and then all of a sudden you had to you use your Mgtow tools, obviously, and
I'll tell you one. The most interesting thing that happened is so this rapport was developing, and we're dating, we're fucking, we're doing all these things, we're kind of getting serious. It's becoming like a mock relationship kind of thing. And one thing that I was always holding out is utility. So with this woman, I would go over, and a lot of part of her house was in disarray, and I had the skill sets, and I was mindful. I'm like, hey, that's not right, and I could easily fix it. I didn't do it.
But don't.
I kept myself from doing it because I'm like, and one of the reasons why I did that is because kind of quickly in the rapport, she kept telling me, well, oh my God, I'm so into it, and I like the way you touch me. The way you make me come, the way you talk. Most of the things that she said about how she liked me they all had a common theme, is what I did for her. She wasn't beholding who I was as a person. She was digging what I did for her.
Yeah.
And I realized that early on, and I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean she's evil, so let's go on. And I held out the whole, I'm going to do shit for you, around your...
Okay, I think we
Uh,
just Misanthrope just popped out. I think he was using his phone at that point. If he wants to jump on his laptop, he just
yeah.
popped out. Maybe his phone ran. He always does it. The phone runs out. I
Oh,
make
really?
that mistake once in a while. My phone runs out. Yeah, it's very interesting.
That's a good point he was making. Yeah.
Yeah, with women, and I wanted to hear that story and how things things we talk about these things all the time, but rarely in Mgtow do we have a man that comes back and says
Reporting
yeah,
live from the field,
I'm
right?
reporting live from the field, and I did feel those chemical responses, and I did have it was so hard to resist that, and that's where the interesting things, and that's where we can start saying yes, we are telling the truth here about these things, and you have to have a real big MGTOW toolbox to resist these things.
Absolutely, exactly.
Now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yeah, I didn't realize I was cutting off, so I have no idea at what point I got cut off. So.
You dropped off right where he was saying that you realized that she was into your utility, and you were holding out though on the utility, but you still realized that everything she was saying about what she liked about you was the way you made her feel and what you did for her essentially.
Yeah, and basically in the whole experience, I didn't give much money. I didn't finance it. But what I did do was I was kind of myself in the way, and I realized that and this kind of goes into sexuality, and I'm not going to go too into it, but like I created most of my sexuality on making sure they come. And if you really look at that, I make myself a utility. I got it to the point where I can't
Yeah.
come unless they come. There's something weird with that, and I don't know if I'm the only man like that, but I'm like that. So of course she's going to praise that, right? But at the end of the day, that's not a true praise because it's utility. I'm not being beholden, or she's not beholding my beauty or whoever I am. Blah blah blah. That stupid shit.
Yeah.
I can make her come, or she likes the way I touch her, or cuddle, or something like that. It's these subtle things that we think we miss in relationships that are actually the things that betray us the most.
That's a good point because I mean I think it gets to this very interesting and difficult to really get, and I don't really know, but the question is in a relationship or what we're seeking from other people in supposedly a relationship, what do we want them to value about us? Do we want them to value, who we are? Do we want them to value what we are? Do you want them to value what we do? I think first we got to define, what we're seeking, because inherently, I think the tendency is that men value women for what they are, for who they are, and then the return, of course, is that women only give a fuck about what men do, but just understanding that line between understanding what someone does for you and then or valuing what you do for them, and then or versus valuing something more fundamental about you, that tends to be what we're after, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that comes down to a lot of the ends of relationships, and I noticed this in my life that I wanted them to value me for the man that I was, what I did at work, how I sacrificed for them, and then there was always this sexual value that she valued me for the sexual value, but in relationships that grows mundane, and it grows very very commonplace, and then as soon as she usually ran off with another guy, I was still sitting there going, well, didn't she value me for what I am? And sometimes they even made worse decisions. They went with a man that was pedaled up on a bicycle, didn't have a job, but he had a sexual value there. And then it's like, then you see it. It's all in your face at that point, and you're like, oh fuck,
Because he only has like sexual market value, and she just passed up on. So essentially, you didn't mean anything to her, is what she's saying, right?
Yeah. What she said at the end was, no, none of that other stuff mattered. You being the man you are, you being, and it was like, wow, that's kind of weird. That's a mind-blowing time in most men's lives where when they get that, even though you have this super awesome agency and everything in life, and your whole ego is built around being able to put things in place, do these things right, take
Yes.
care of the bills, all that. That still doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's so hard
and here's the thing,
appreciate that.
I'm not even going to say most. I really want to say all, but majority, I don't know how to say it, but majority women think that the things bad or good in life happens to them. It just happens. Most men, stupid men, like fucking mentally ill men, Down syndrome men even, just being a man, somehow we inherently know that life doesn't really happen to us. We're kind of fucking involved and accountable at some level, and it's like an ingrained, and isn't that a weird distinction? That's a really, but it's the fundamental distinction that we need to see when you realize that. Because I challenge anyone listening to this or anybody future to listen to this to go out into a bar or a church or a grocery store, meet a woman, get to know her. Her story is going to be what happened to her, and she will not admit or even realize that she made a lot of that shit happen.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
We often hear we hear it from Terrence Popp a lot, and we all watched Terrence's great movie production of the suicide case, and he said because she wasn't happy. My life was ending because she wasn't happy, and that's what it boils down to most of the time, her happiness. And happiness is such a metaphysical thing. You can't put how do you make
responsibility on a male? That's insane.
How can you make someone happy? We have a hard enough time making ourselves happy, and in Mgtow here, after we put all those things away, we figured out the first thing in Mgtow is, man, if I don't make myself happy, then I'm still going to be validating myself through women, and I got to do that first. I got to figure out these things in my house, in my life, that make me happy. Then I can be a better person. I'm not validating myself through women, but that's what the trap was there to begin with. And women seem to never get by. If she's not happy, and she can't make herself happy, then you got a real problem.
Yeah, when I hear that from females, it's like, it always like, I just couldn't process that. I was like, they'd be like, well, either, when things aren't going well, you're not making me happy, or I'm not happy, and so blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I just never knew what to do with that, because you can't do anything with that. You can't possibly control all the variables in someone's life that would make them happy. And
when did I become the entertainment, the clown, the comedian, the movie provider,
it's ridiculous.
The provider of art on the walls to make her feel good when she walked out of the bathroom, and that's what it is. It's if you can do that for a short period of time with the sex and your presence and your great personality or whatever, but that ends. Right. And then it's more. It's like the colors of the walls and the towels you put up and the kind of toilet that's there and what she wants in the kitchen, and then that grows and grows and grows and grows, and it becomes the never-ending process of making her happy. And we hear it a lot with happy wife, happy life.
You want to hear something really interesting? Right. Really interesting as far as this thing, like a conversation.
Yeah, far away.
Go ahead.
Good timing. Looks like he's dropping a little bit.
Yeah, did we get you? Did you drop out again there, Misanthrope? Yeah, I think he dropped out there. He's gonna. I would suggest moving over to the. I don't know if he's on his
cell phone,
lap phone, or his cell phone. I had that problem the other day where I just dropped out. As a matter of fact, at the end of the last, me and Messenger were talking, and it just cut off. It just dropped out, and it was like, wow, that never happens to my cable.
Yeah,
I'm back.
Okay, yeah. And you're not in cold weather area, are you?
No, what I think is happening is I have a setting on my phone where it's trying to go into a sleep mode.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's a new phone that I'm using, by the way, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, I have that happen to my computer. If I don't constantly wiggle the thing, it'll go into sleep. It'll turn off my internet.
Yeah, well, mine still shows everything. It shows me the screen with live and the record and the mute button and all that, and then it seems like it drops out because when I hit end call when you guys are saying, hey, you there, whatever, When I hit end call, it goes back to the lock screen, which suggests that the
Goes
phone's
back to the lock screen.
Oh,
yeah.
weird. Is it a Samsung?
Samsung.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. I know that. I got a Samsung. They're great for
Anyway,
podcasts.
where was I cut off on my little story? It's real short. It's not that long. So
Yeah, Traversable was just saying how making them happy, and you can't make them happy because
No, there is no maybe because that's a never.
oh yeah,
That's the ladder I was talking about. There's always the next step in a ladder.
right.
You do this, you're dating, you're doing that ritual, you get married. It doesn't end there when you get married. You have to get that job promotion, and then you have to get that next promotion, and then you have to be the alpha male, and then you got to be all this, and then you get to that top rung on that ladder as high as you can go, and they still expect that's hypergamy. They're looking for the next rung up, and if you can't provide that, it's still the Red Queen always keeps running. That's why everybody should read the book The Red Queen by Ridley. The Red Queen, and that's what he says too. The whole book is the Red Queen keeps running. She keeps running. She's not going to slow down because she's always looking for that next step in hypergamy.
yeah.
Wow, that's so heavy, man. It's so heavy to realize that. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can just either keep providing that or, happy wife, happy life. She's going to make your life miserable when she's not happy. And you all know how that is. The dishes get thrown. You're going to have incidents with the police. You're reaching in your pocket. You're going, oh, God, I can't afford her a new fucking car. And that's what she wants. And she's working at a 2-year-old car. And if you can't afford that, she's going to make your life absolutely freaking miserable until you do. Or X, boom, you are the X, divorce, which she can get the resources, move on to the next guy, and use the hypergamy if if she has any market value at that point. But she will get paid by the government for that. So, it's a no-lose situation. We're back to that no-lose situation. There has to be somewhere where women lose in this thing if they make bad choices, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And right with our government now, there is no losing for them. And
Yeah, no, that's the and I think that's a point that one of the is it a black ram or something? I think some of these Idmore guys, they make this point really well, that the only way for a society really to function is to not allow females to extract male resources.
Right.
Right. That's the only. They have to be. That's the only thing that will keep them in check. If there's, so males have to put a barrier between their own productivity and female exploitation of that.
Right, because you have to teach them how to make themselves happy. The same thing we teach men in here. We need to teach feminists. Make your fucking self happy. Don't get married. Make yourself happy, and then you'll be a happier. And then somehow I'm going to benefit because I'm not going to have to hear all that bitching and garbage. But do it. Make yourself happy. Learn how to do that task.
Right, and so long as they can't steal male resources,
Mm-hmm.
then they're in a position where they have to negotiate. And that's where women aren't right now. They don't have to negotiate. That they can be complete cunts, complete psychopaths. There's no repercussions because they're able to steal male resources. But if the only time it's like a child won't behave unless there is, they understand that there is a consequence for their misbehavior. The only real consequence that you can ever introduce to a female for misbehavior is deprivation of resources. So that's the lever that has to be pulled.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's you empty the cookie jar.
Exactly.
They go to reach in that cookie jar anytime they feel that they want that little spurt of sugar or whatever it is. I call it pudding, but they reach in there and get whatever they want, and men are more than happy to give it. In most cases, with I would say 80% of the men in society, they simp. And they white knight, and they find that thing. They give a girl something, and it's the flowers at first, and it's the gift, the ring, and there's things that are representative of this whole thing too, which are the flowers, the gift, the ring, the new car, the marriage you're giving there, and men get programmed to do this. Let's chop that. That's what Mgtow's saying. Let's chop that off, and then be responsible, be accountable, make yourself happy, and then maybe a lot of these men will start coming back. Where are all the good men gone? Girls,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe we'll start coming back because we are out here.
And here's one more addition to that idea, I think. And so, I'm going to bring in TFM here real quick. So Turd-Flinging Monkey, he talks about how the whole dimorphism and males are superior to females, and all that is true. I mean, there's a truth to that, but I think we can take it too far, because the reality is that the advantages that males have, like strength, when you think about male strength, they cannot leverage directly against females. Right? You can't, just because you're bigger and stronger, there's no way to leverage that against them. You can't use force, you can't use violence, so you're completely made impotent in terms of your
right
dimorphic advantages, right? So in a civilized society, when when you're civilized, and you have reasonable constraints on violence and whatever, that removes what would otherwise be a check in the natural world. If we go back to our natural world, there'd be that check of violence, right? So if a female was out of line, she would get put in place. But we don't have that, and that's why resources become the only lever that can be pulled to keep them in line.
Oh yeah, and they're trying to tail that back now, because the violence, what is that, DVM laws, or domestic violence laws, they're starting to include like holding resources back from them in those, which is or being mean, or telling her the truth, holding resources, stuff like that. They're trying to tail that. They're trying
using
to make
logic, right?
Yeah, using logic against them will soon be domestic violence.
This is the kind of it's on. Who would have thought that in 2015 we would be living in a world that was so psychotic?
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of the writers and poets and whatnot for the last several generations actually did predict it. Beat Generation certainly did. Hippies kind of got weird with it. They kind of did. And ever since, there's been different little, kind of up and downs with movements and literary, cultural, music, whatever, that kind of did, but it never gets that close. One of the fundamental problems is that, and it goes back to resources, is that in the Western world, we have too much, and we take it for granted. Each and every one of us does.
Yeah.
And in other parts of the world where they don't have resources, they don't have these problems that we're talking about. They just don't have time for these problems. They're not even on the radar.
That's my point exactly. That's the least dysfunction from the female will be found when the resources are the least, right? But with every incremental improvement or surplus of resources, you'll get more and more attempt by females to exploit that, right? Illegitimately, to steal
Black
that. To
Speaks. I was just thinking the same thing. Black Gnostic Speaks, Brave New World. We hinged on that, and then with the Third Man, we hinged on it, and they hinged on the idea with the Animal Farm too. Back then, we hinged on the idea of what do we do now? And A Brave New World is a great example. If you guys haven't read A Brave New World, that it's a perfect little book. And at the end, you're going to see John hanging himself, going orgy porgy orgy, and the masses outside yelling orgy porgy orgy porgy, and John hangs himself because he didn't understand the world. And it was a great example of how John convinced himself of something and it wasn't true. And what he was saying is, I'm having my red pill moment here, I'm just going to freaking hang myself.
There you go. Yeah, it's realizing how it's like waking up from the Matrix and realizing how fucked up it is and being all, I'm out of here, I'm not going to deal with this shit.
Yeah, John is he could have been a great Mgtow, but he chose to took that other path of hanging himself because he's seen it. And Aldous Huxley, that's Aldous Huxley that wrote that. And
Yeah,
it's funny that Animal Farm came out,
best
and
book
then
ever.
best book ever if you want to look at the way the way gynocentric, or not even feminism works, gynocentric works, that gives you a good example of the way it works in society. You know, with Health and Human Services, the paper pushers, the pigs and the dogs, the men are the utilities, the horses, and they're going, I just need to work. What was the horse's name? I need to work harder. I need to work harder. And then you had the dogs that were running, the cackling hyenas, and the sheep were always doing what they were doing, and they're having these meetings and not getting, nothing done. And it was all about the windmill. And the windmill was they were trying to figure out how to get the windmill back running, and someone was stealing the resources of the windmill.
Yeah,
And they
it's
were going to make
unbelievable how exact it is, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great book to read if you're new to Mgtow. Two of the greatest books were, A Brave New World, and not a lot of the stuff because there is a little bit of gynocentrism in there about, but you take it like you look through anytime you read in Mgtow, when you become a Mgtow, you have to switch the words a lot to Mgtow men, and use your Mgtow words, and put those in and replace them with that, and then you see the idea.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's what blows my mind, is that having documented all of this, it's so well documented. In literature, you got Animal Farm, Brave New World, 1984. These are things that everybody is aware of. We learn about, we talk about, but somehow we learn about propaganda, from the Nazis. Everyone understands propaganda and oppression. We understand oppression, but so with all that awareness, how can we be so fucking retarded that it still just happens?
You got real close there. You mentioned the word propaganda, right?
Yeah.
And the Nazis, actually the Bolsheviks in the Russian Revolution that put up posters, and they had a word for it, and this is where we get that was the foundation for propaganda. And now all nations and all peoples and all cultures and all groups use it, every last one of them. Propaganda is now the new language. It's the new common language, whether it's interpersonal or group to group or nation to nation. We're always kind of lying to each other. And if we can get back to truth and honesty, then things will get better.
Yeah.
That's a great point, man.
They talk about doublespeak, and doublespeak as the propaganda. You're talking one thing, but it means something else. It's like saying you're going to get everything you deserve, and the guy's going, "Yeah, I'm going to get everything I deserve," and that's great things. And she's thinking, "Oh no, you're going to get everything you deserve because you're such an ass."
Right. Let's look at the word deserve. It's a word birthed from the idea of being entitled, as if just the idea that anyone, man or woman or anybody, just the fact that you're born, you're entitled, that you're owed something. And guess what? You're not. You're not owed anything. Just because you're alive, you're not owed shit.
No, yeah.
Right.
Most men will look at that line and go, I remember a woman doing this to me too, and saying, I want to be not misogynist, I want to be, true to you and everything. And she used the M word there, which is evading me right now. And I thought, after a little while about thinking of it, I said, oh no, she's just doing doublespeak there. And, she's telling me what she wants out of me.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's all deception. It's all manipulation. It's all lies.
Absolutely. Look at how it's the company you keep too, right? So with my recent experience, one thing that I noticed quickly is how she talked about and what she talked about with her friends, especially her female friends. Most of them were fucking, barflies and cheaters and manipulators and just assholes. And I mentioned it. I'm like, you realize that your whole circle of friends are just assholes. And she's like, yeah, but she just played it off. Like, she admitted to it, but she wasn't going to do anything about it. And But here's the thing: I made a conscious choice or a subconscious choice at some point to ignore that, because that's a huge red flag.
Oh yeah.
If you meet someone and their whole circle of friends are fucking just manipulative, horrible people, they are too. It's simple as that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
They're constantly talking about their old boyfriend.
Birds of a feather, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, or the.
Yeah.
Did she have
And the interesting thing is that she gave me a new one that I've heard before, but I didn't realize it. Women will defend other women that cheat and do foul shit by saying, "Oh, they're just a free spirit." Have you ever heard a man called a free spirit because he goes out and just fucking does what he does? No, he's not a free spirit. It's only the woman cheater that's a free spirit.
Oh yeah.
Doublespeak,
Yep.
man. It's everywhere. It's in the best interests of the child, right? Talk about doublespeak.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's in the best interest of the court.
I mean, it's you have it was in the best interest of the mother, right? It's basically like it's just using a child as a shield. There's so many examples in our culture. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we got to get this vocabulary down, and daddies for cash and daddy farming. That's what they're doing, as soon as men start waking up and they go, no, I'm not going to get into that daddies for cash situation and daddy farming and becoming a utility and using the words we use. And them are the words we have to push on society, are the phrases we have to push on because they have ideas behind them.
That's right. This is the one I was trying to think of, primary caregiver.
Primary caregiver. Yeah.
That is hardcore doublespeak right there, right? Because
I got caught up in that too. Yeah. They
say they're trying to say that the person who actually puts the food in the mouth is the primary caregiver. Okay, but where did the food come from, right?
Where did the food come from? Yeah.
So that's the primary caregiver. I mean, give me a fucking break. Where's the house? You won't have the house. You won't have the food. So the man is out. He's out working his balls off all day to have the whole, the resources, the house and the food and everything, and they call her the primary caregiver. I mean, it's fucking insane. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, they got a lot of doublespeak for those terms like shared custody or you can get custody, and then they have another term for one, and there's like 3 terms, and they all sound the same, but you got to realize that you're not getting 50-50 custody. And you probably never will get it. And even with in some states, you got to look at all these terms that they use. They mean different things in different states.
So there's like 3 kinds of shared custody. Is that what you're saying?
Right. None of the terms there. It's a turd or a turd sandwich. None of the terms actually mean you're going to get 50-50 custody of those kids.
Quote unquote shared, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna share the monetary part of the custody.
Shit sandwich.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God, I went through that, and then I started thinking about it, and I was reading the explanations, and I was like, oh, all 3 of these suck. I don't have a win situation here. There is no win situation. It was all lawyer doublespeak, and female gynocentrism just presented itself in my face, where it was a lose-lose situation, and that was it.
There's your new speak. Here's your options. Your quote-unquote options, sir. They're all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same. They're just worded differently. Yeah, shit, or shit. Oh, which one of those? I want a big turd or a little turd or a medium turd? Or, they all smell bad. It's this whole thing. The whole thing smelled bad from the beginning. Yeah, shared custody means financial custody. Yeah, you get to, give, and that's the way they think about it. And
it's disgusting.
Until you see that.
To spend all her own money from her job any way she sees fit, and all your money in the way she sees fit, and if the child kind of gets a benefit from that, right? That's good.
Yeah, that's good. You kind of get a benefit. It's trickle-down economics. After it trickles down to her new purse. It's a new Gucci,
Meanwhile, she's bringing in different dudes in the house, and the child's getting fucked up in the brain about father figures, and there you go.
Oh, God. Yeah, my son's got some real horror stories, and I'd like to get my son on someday to, tell you guys his horror stories, but he's not quite ready for that yet.
Is he still there? Is he still with you?
Yeah, he's off at school right now, so he's away. We sent him away for some schooling, and I haven't seen him for like a month now. And I took him some cigarettes. He called me the other day. You know how they are. It's like, Dad, can you bring down a carton of cigarettes and some chew? But that's cool.
That'll be good to get him in the Mgtow community early, though. Therapeutic.
Therapeutic, yeah, it's therapeutic. He's 24 years old and had quite a hard life. He's a product of a single mom, baby mama. The whole thing. He knows all the terms. He knows all the ideas. He lived it, and that's like guys like TFM that lived it. It gets to them so early in life that they get a real grasp on when they're searching for a woman and they're searching and he tells me all the time, Dad, this girl offered me a Rolex to date her. She's going to buy me a Rolex. And I was like, you can take it, but move along. Don't get trapped in that. But he's got the PUA down. But he's 24. Of course, he's got the PUA down. He's like, he's running on 360% testosterone.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's a cool situation. Do we have a female in the room there? Lilith the Dragon.
No, I think that's
Is that a male? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I was wondering if I forgot to give someone a tool, so in case we do get a female in the room,
sledgehammer.
It's gonna hammer that out of here. Yeah, that just caught me. I'm sorry if I misinterpreted that. I was just looking real quick to see what was going on, and I was like, nope, can't have that. And,
right.
It'll turn into an MU podcast.
There's another good example of doublespeak is the word equality, right?
Equality, yeah. Well, equality means something totally different from a man's perspective.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the outcome take. What are you going to do to be equal, Do you just deserve it? And it goes back to entitlement. Entitlement is so pervasive right now. Like, everywhere. Everybody's entitled. It's getting really weird. Like, you've got groups, individuals. It just seems like everybody has this self-entitled attitude.
I
agree.
And
it's so pervasive that it's not just the Western world. Like, it's trickling down to other places where, like, they're more concerned about having a cell phone than food because they're entitled to get attention through the apps on their fucking phone, and, like, things are getting really fucking bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
It's true, man. It's true. And I'm a firm believer, and I was on this page, before it came out, but what Term Fleeing Monkey said about, I identify as a transgender, I have 14 different ethnicities, and I am the super minority, okay? That's what I am.
Yeah.
And part of that comes from, hold on, can I do this? Yes, I can do it. So anyway, I was looking at history, and somewhere that there's this idea that when we look at history, it's always abstract, it's always removed. And Mgtow is a little interesting because we actually try to challenge this, but we don't do it hard enough. And what do I mean by this is that when we come up with figures like, well, we always invent things and we always die on behalf of women, and we even give numbers to it. Like, we can provide statistics and things that can be looked up and verified. That's still lost. That's not just a woman thing that is lost on it. It's a generational thing. Each generation is removed from the horrors, the atrocities, and the sacrifices from the previous one. And it's really difficult to convey that in a conversation one-on-one or through music or whatever. You have to do it through rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And so
to pass on that generational knowledge, right?
Yeah, it's not a flyby soundbite. It's not a YouTube video. Like, how do you convey that you are here based on the death, the blood, the tears of other people? And that means something. And that should be that is your validation to live and live well as you can, and not to bow down to to women or any other thing that would have you bow down. You know? How do you
Absolutely.
convey that message? How do you fucking do it? I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, men don't even think about that as the privilege they have, because when it's posed to you in society as when I see the commercials, when I see they always have they have the new one about 100 men soldiers standing around to a woman and a child saying you're going to have to get through us. And
Mm.
but it never includes the men in that privilege. You get the privilege. It's like the hamburger theory. Equality for a woman is she gets a hamburger, you get the bill, but you get the satisfaction of buying that for her.
Nope.
It's insane.
And yeah, you get to do that. Like we really want to do that fucking work, like dying for you. You know, and men are waking up to that. You know, it's like, no, that's not a good deal.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of blue pill men romanticize the fact of sacrificing
Yeah.
themselves on behalf of a woman. Here's the thing, though. Like, even in the best stories, the best films, the best poetry, there's so little said about this object of affection, this woman worth dying for. And that's a good question. What is worth dying for when it comes to another human being? Is just the fact that they're a woman, they have a vagina, they said nice things to you. Like, why are you dying for them? You need to ask yourself this question. Like, did they really do anything and impact your life in a positive way for you to die? Probably not.
No.
Absolutely. And I think that gets back to original sin. That's where I think, like, you know, they describe, you know, it's true that the female is sort of commits the original sin, right? She's the one who tries to steal, but it is pretty quickly after that, you know, the male can become an accomplice in that quote sin, you know, whatever, the evil, by facilitating it and by you know, being an accomplice and by supplicating and being willing to meet her demands, right? So the original sin is the illegitimate demand, and then the very follow-up sin is, you know, for men to go with that and to make that illegitimate sacrifice that they shouldn't be making. You know?
Yeah, she handed him the apple. He ate it. Yeah, that's not the same. That's like saying, she made you some Kool-Aid, put some poison in it. You drank it, but hey, dude, you
it's your
drank
fault.
It's your fault. You're going, I didn't know. And you go, no, dude, you lifted it to your lips. You did the physical act of drinking it. It's your fault.
And that could be extended, or just that represents a lot of the other, you know, in all these walks of life. So when females are sort of manipulating the male drive to provide and protect, the male drive to you know, for sex, as they manipulate that, right? That's of their own volition, and it's something that pre-exists in males without their choosing. Now, males have to manage it, but the initial act of aggression is attempting to manipulate that, and then you know, and then males can either be accomplice to it, and as you say, like, well, like when Turfling Monkey, he's saying, you know, men keep giving women what they want, and part of that is because that's in their nature, but part of it, it's, in other words, they're being manipulated. You still have to hold them accountable because we need to overcome it. You know, we aspire to overcome it, but it doesn't mean that it was their fault originally, because they didn't put the poison in the drink. You know, they're not the one who's attempting to destroy the family so that she can go get some other cock. You know, it's just different. That was kind of disjointed, but hopefully.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Yeah, we get the point. You know, it's yeah. I didn't know the poison was in there. You know, is it my fault because I didn't know, or is it my fault because I still, you know, I did the physical act of drinking it? You know, no, there was no way you could have known, and that's what we're saying about Mgtow.
From the moment of birth, you're also you're fucking
indoctrinated.
You're indoctrinated with the trust. Yeah.
Your sacrifice, that your pain, your suffering, and your sacrifice is a beautiful thing as long as it's on the behalf of women. It's a beautiful thing, and if you do it, you're a good man. So here's the thing:
right.
You shitty dude, your whole life, lie, steal, cheat, whatever, from everybody. But as long as die saving or benefiting a woman, you're a good guy.
Yeah, you're a good guy.
Totally.
We were talking about that earlier with could you see, making sacrifices for another man, treating other men like that? And it's a hard thing for men to do. I think in Mgtow we say, bros before hoes and stuff like that, and that's a good thing.
Joe, I think you exemplified that recently. You really did. That's a cool thing, and that's a good question. Can we do that? Can we put ourselves out there in the same way when we were pussy chasing? And what does that mean, and what form does that take?
Yeah, what form does that take? Is just being empathetic to your brother and not throwing him under the bus. Not we see this, we see such a disparity in the funding for men, homeless men. We see such a well, that comes from one place. Since we know men are altruistic, we know men are the providers and everything, and we pay $8.75. It comes from men's inability to be altruistic with other men, and when they see that, it's like it grinds on their teeth. Like, no, that man, he's got to man up. Sometimes a man can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you just said. All right, so again, a challenge. Go out there and look up homelessness and look for videos, documentaries, whatever. And I just figured out there's a formula to a lot of them, which is influenced by gynocentrism. And the formula is this. The first half of the movie is going to give you figures. It's going to try to sympathize with the plight of homelessness. It's going to give you interviews with a lot of men, downtrodden-looking men. And they're going to say random things that you would expect. And then at the end of the movie, it's going to drive it all home with a woman's tale of why she's homeless.
I've seen that, a woman's tale of why she's
homeless.
And
I just figured that out. It just snapped at me because I've seen dozens, man, probably 100, documentaries on homelessness. And I've actually been homeless myself, and I've dealt with homeless people in a variety of different ways. Mostly men, never women, because that's a unicorn in itself. I've seen them. Anyways, but isn't that interesting? There's a formula where you can only make the masses sympathize as long as there's a woman with a couple kids involved. But fuck the dudes. Fuck the dudes that got raped by society in every which way. Fuck them. But now it's sad because a woman had something bad happen to her.
Yeah, that's the only way they see it. A woman or kids are, are out in a car sleeping in a cold. It becomes a very empathetic thing. But when you see a man, most men walk right over him.
Yeah, he should deal with it. He's a man, right?
He's
and
a man,
if he can't get a job again.
Yeah, he's got no societal utility.
Yeah, my heart bleeds every time I see a homeless man. All I see is a guy who's fought his way through life, and and just didn't fucking make it over some of the shit that was put in his way, and it's just sad, Now, to some extent, guys can make bad choices and everything, but
yeah.
Oops, did he pop out again there? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've witnessed this and seen this in my life a few times, and this house was supposed to have a real meaning to it within Mgtow, and it was supposed to become a shelter for a man. And just recently, I stopped doing that because even in this community, there was no support, zero support for that. I don't know how Mayor Mgtow did what he did. Maybe it's just they were giving money for his personality, and they were giving money for that. But, there's no way to write a grant. There's no way to get the money to get funded. They will shut you down. And the house before we bought, we had granting and we had funding from out of a corporation out of Florida. But as soon as they figured out that it was an all-men's house, that funding dried up. It went away. And I've seen this several times over and over in my life, where if you I just seen a recent example of this. I went to help out a couple days ago at a it was a shelter. It's a men's a rehabilitation shelter, and the way you have to pose these things is they have to be alcoholics, they have to be drug abusers. But in that house, running on the same, it was running on the same program as was supposed to be going through HHS and Health and Human Services, same program. And I went to several women's houses. It was trickle-down economics from the larger women's house, and the men had to bring their own food.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and then I started thinking, well, the genius in that. Men can only get housing from HHS if they apply for the food stamp card. Now they're in the system. They can take a full look at them, say, oh, there's one. Go pick him up. He owes child support. Oh, there's one. He's a felony. Oh, there's one. He's a, and the only men that can truly get anything out of this is, and it starts that system, either volunteer for the system, or you're gonna be screwed on this thing. And you get about 1/10 of what on the other house, the side of the house, at a very large complex for women, and they're getting their spas and their manicures and teaching them how to be good hypergamous little women, and get them back into society so they can marry a man and move on with their life. But for the males,
some unsuspecting dupe.
Yeah. But for the males, they had to bring their own sheeting. They got a plastic bed. They had to bring their own sheeting. They have to bring their own food. They had to supply. They need to have outside contacts to do this, to get the same thing that. And it was just one of those aha moments in my life where gynocentrism was in you. If you became a utility, you were going to do good in that program.
Right.
And
right.
If the women became the hypergamous whore and got back to being good looking, they would do good in that program, and that's what our government wants.
That's a great summary. The hypergamy and gynocentrism runs so deep. It's got so many layers to it that you can't let your guard down.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, I got it. I get the idea. I'm good. Like a system like that it's literally institutional. It's just hard baked into our current system, and
it's hard baked into our current system. Can you imagine the senators when they're discussing this, when they're putting together these programs, and they says, well, all these men have to do is go get a job, and then when it comes down to the women's shelters, and they say, well, all these women have to do is find a man. It's like, you fucking dickwad. Did you
fucking
just? Yeah. Did you? It's like you can. It's like, oh man, he just said that. That's what they're saying in those policies.
Yep.
And
that's the translation.
Yeah, that's the translation of the policies. That's what they're saying, and it comes from that deadbeat dad, baby mama thing. The welfare mama from the All they did is throw out McCarthyisms. And then they worked on those McCarthyisms to form them into this horrible fucking system that we got now.
It's rancid. It's so corrupt.
Rancid system. Yes, it's rancid. It's corrupt, and it just works for those few individuals on the top that are then they're extracting the money out of the system. We got a $2.2 trillion system. If you haven't looked for Health and Human Services, it was 44,000 programs for females and 2 for men. And that's
just like men. Obamacare. That's a perfect mirror of Obamacare. Yeah.
Well, it's a perfect mirror of Obamacare. When you look at Obamacare, God, that's such an awful program. I pay $500 a month for my health insurance now, and it's just, I go down there and they give me a number for another doctor. I just went down there for my shoulder. They gave me a number for another doctor, then charged me $200.
For a ticket for
a ticket to go to another doctor, and I was thinking, this is a socialist failure. And
it is. We romanticize how Russia is corrupt, and everything is corrupt, and you gotta pay everybody off to do things, and Mexico is corrupt. Well, the reality is that we are this is a shithole that we're living in right now. it's unbearable. It should not be tolerated.
It's unbearable. Yeah, that you know what? Okay, now think about the average person on Social Security, or disability or Social Security, whatever you want to call that and everything. They now have to pay. They're the poorest people in the country now have to pay $500, which I don't know what does a person on Social Security get now?
900
About
bucks.
17, yeah, 17, between 17 depending on the work and $900 because they stopped work early. If they
Right.
have $1,700 a month, that would provide a basic living. Now you got a $500 bill on that.
Right, for
That puts them
Obamacare.
under poverty. That puts them under poverty. That program just created a whole new fucking poverty class.
Absolutely. Right there. That's by government edict. It sent all
By
these people into
government
poverty.
they just provided a whole, and guess who benefits from now? These people have to go back down to HHS and say, hey, I don't have enough money to fucking survive here, because you're taking $500 on something that used to cost. I know it used to cost my mother when she was Medicare. Because I used to pay it for her, was $160 a month.
Right, right.
And that was a perfectly 100% program, which paid for all of her needs and everything when she was dying. And now I don't even know. I hear some guys talking $1,000 a month. If you're a single, you get that single tax.
Yeah.
Oh man, tax, it could cost you, and you're working and you're making between $45,000-$50,000. 2/3 of that, 1/3 of that money is going for taxes right off the top. So automatically making, if you're making 50, now you're making 30. 35, and then you got $1,000 a month. Deduct 12,000. Man, you ain't doing good.
You're working your ass off, and you're still poor. You're still in poverty.
Yeah. And let it be said, guys, most people in this country, if you got this delusion that people are making 100, 150,000, six figures and over that, no, most people in this country make between $35,000 and $40,000 a year, and now have to pay between $6,000 and $12,000 for insurance, and almost 45% of their if you have a house, 45% goes for taxes to begin with. You've just created another fucking poverty class, worse than before. You raise poverty. He raised poverty, and they don't even include these people in there. He raised poverty and he'll talk about. You got 5% unemployment now, which is just bullshit because you had all the people drop off and aren't willing, just aren't eligible, and I don't know what they're doing right now. They're the 2 million men that are sitting, and that could be up to 8 million to 10 million men sitting on the fucking sidewalk with a sign going, I'm hungry.
Well, no, Joe. Actually, I just read something on this recently, and that a lot of those 2 million men have done exactly what you have actually talked about to do in the past. Hey, you fix a fucking roof, or you see a problem in the community, whatever, and you go and do that. A lot of them have done that. And some of them have done it with the internet, whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're off the grid. They're making money in this different way. It's not counted. And so when they go back,
right,
when they're done doing that because it's not steady income, and they try to go back to the jobs that they were trained for, on their resume, there's the gap. And when they have to explain the gap, well, I was just doing odd jobs and just whatever, now it's looked at as a bad thing. It's not looked at as that you have initiative. It's looked at as like, oh, you think you're special. You can do your own thing.
Yeah.
As soon as I give you 1 or 2 paychecks, you're going to go out and do your own business.
Yeah, well, yeah. If men do that. If one business fails, okay, now I got to go work for a little bit, and I got to take this guy's shit for a little bit, and as soon as I get that money saved.
Corporate society realizes this, and it's been part of their hiring practices. Not only their practices, but there's actually now, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but when you submit a resume to a company, nobody reads it. No human reads it. They're looking for keywords. If the keywords aren't there, it's dismissed, and it doesn't even go to a human. So.
Oh God, yeah, it's just scanned through a reader and.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's bad, man. It's bad. I mean, the depth of the institutionalism that is, discrimination against males at this point is fucking wicked.
Oh yeah, guys, I'll tell you what. When you're making out your resumes, lie your ass off.
Yeah.
I make up when I have done this in the past and everything, I've learned this. I make up 3 resumes: one that looks one way, one that looks another way, and one that looks another way. And then I decide at the company which one I'm going to put in as soon as I find out what the company does.
And then have you also have to have friends, or AKA references. You need to communicate them what's going on so they can vouch for you. Yeah. That's very important too. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, you can't use a reference from some guy you used to get along with at a work 5, 6 years ago. If you're not talking to him currently, he's going to get that call and probably make you sound like an asshole because you're like, who? What? You know what I
mean? Yeah. Men have to, women do it all the time. You see it in their resumes where they give all their accolades, and then you start looking at those accolades, and they're fake accolades.
Right. It's like, I was the boss of this, whatever bullshit.
Yeah, men find that discouraging to do, and I should just be able to put I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and that says it all. No, you got to give like 10 other things that you where the class you have to give like so much other stuff now to compete with that.
Yeah, it's really, I find it's just so, I mean, because there's a lot of women in management now, right? And they have like no respect for, earning that, and so you have all these men who are really like working hard underneath all these all these women who, they might be qualified on paper, but they haven't really earned their position. They haven't really come up the hard way. They've been affirmative actioned into it, and it's just so distasteful to see them, these fucking prisses, pushing around men doing real work. It's completely off-putting.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, and I've been in both positions, the one that does the interviews and the hiring, and the other side, and one thing I've noticed in the last 15 years or whatnot, is that, all right, at every job that you go to now, no matter what field it is, you go into there's a job description, right? We read it, we understand it, we know what we're supposed to do. And men will go on that job description, we already intuitively know that there's going to be some other shit that pops up, and we're going to do that shit too. And when it does pop up, and we have to do extra shit on top of the job description which we're being paid for, we don't typically bitch, we just do it. However, when women are expected or asked to do something that's beyond the job description, they'll come home and bitch constantly about it. And they remember it so fondly, the details of that extra shit they do, they put it in their next resume, and the resume looks better. Men don't think this way. Men think, because we think in terms of being a utility, every little extra shit that we do beyond the job description is just part of the job. And we don't remember it. We don't put it in our resume, and we don't sell ourselves in the same way.
Right. Yeah, they're very petty about what they'll pull out. Like, I told somebody to do something, so I'm a boss. Like, that'll be some big accolade in their resume. Yeah, it's just like puffed and fluffed.
Yeah, you ever look at some of these feminist accolades they give themselves? It's almost ridiculous.
They want to be worshipped for surviving a day of work dealing with other people. They really do. They're like, oh my God, I had such a hard day. Men walk in, we're all stoic and upset. They don't give a fuck. Like, it's such a weird standard, And guess what? In the newer generations, men walk in and they bitch about their day, and the women that do the same thing, no empathy. So you can be old school, not talk about it, and you don't talk enough, or you can be new school, a little bitch about it, and you're too whiny and too sensitive.
Oh,
that is a classic trap.
That too. We get trained into that. We give women accolades for doing what a 14-year-old boy does. A 14-year-old boy grabs the garbage bags, takes them out to the garbage. You go, a woman does that, takes out the garbage, and you go, you're a strong, independent girl.
You're a fucking diva now.
Yeah, you're a diva, good girl. It's like almost you throw her a little biscuit like a dog. Oh boy, you good dog. It's like, fuck, we give women accolades for doing things that men do naturally, but they get these big kudos for, like, oh, look, you started your own business, and then the next thing you know, she's on a fucking on the local paper. Woman starts a business.
You know what, Joe? That's really interesting because when a woman like starts a business from the ground up, I don't even care if it's fucking Avalon or the cosmetic shit. She relies on the services of other
Men.
businessmen to even have it exist, but she'll never give props to that.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
And it's usually a lighter than air business, a lighter than air job. It's one of those, okay, I put all the paperwork together, and I hope I can get the men to do the work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like a little pottery or like a craft thing. Who's going to move the craft, and who's going to get it to the customer, and who's going to, there's just a variety of things that happen with business that are just assumed to be left up to us, indirectly or directly.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. What is that? That thing it's on the internet, and it's really big now. It is a girl's name, and she finds contractors.
Angie's List.
Angie's List, yeah. Angie's List is the biggest example of that.
Yeah.
She put together some paperwork, started a website. The men have the businesses on there, and she gets money for that's gynocentrism in process there. It's lighter than air work, and Angie's List is probably one of the biggest gynocentric companies out there now. And
Joe, it's derivative. Where'd that whole thing come from? It was Craig. It was a dude. It was
Craigslist, yeah.
Craigslist.
Was it through Craigslist that she started that thing? Yeah. And
she made Craigslist because it was too informal and too free, Craigslist. Yeah. So she pinpoint, or probably a man told her to pinpoint it, how to like narrow it in as far as when it comes to like gigs and jobs and service stuff. And then suddenly it was monetized, and she's a big mogul. And it was derivative from this dude named Craig.
I watched the commercial the other day on TV, and the guy was standing next to his wife, and she's giving him accolades about. She's going, oh, you did a good job putting in that sink, and he said, yes, because I got this guy, and the plumber was standing there. Dude, if you can't put in a sink. It's like, and that's the mangina men that we're raising now, these Angie's List mangina men. Dude, if you cannot put a sink in your fucking house, I'm really questioning that. I'm really questioning what's going on in this society.
And you should, and look at reality TV shows when it comes to home building or home finding. Well, fuck, home finding.
Oh yeah.
When they portray these couples looking for, that's a whole fucking episode. But when it comes to like building, they always have the girl, the obligatory girl. She's kind of cute. She's blonde. She's short. She's perfect, right? It's men doing all the work, and she's in the forefront talking about men doing the work and how she made it happen.
How she made it happen, yeah.
And you got some bloke, some dude in the background actually hammering away at shit. Never looks at the camera. Just does his fucking job.
Oh yeah, this is what happened with the building, the housing market crashed. The prices of the house went up. Well, why did the prices? We got women that are doing turning houses now, and all they're doing is calling the plumber. They're not doing the work. They're calling the carpenter. They're calling the wall. They're not doing the wall board. The houses are so inflated now that it's just fucking crazy, because they found that lighter than pigs and dogs work, like in the book that we were talking about before, Animal Farm. They figured out the pigs and the dogs did the paperwork, and at night they burnt the paperwork for heat.
Yeah.
Who was going to fix the fucking windmill? Nobody was going to fix the fucking windmill.
Right. How can we see it so clearly in the book, but somehow in real life we fall for that trick over and over again?
We fall for that trick over and over. Yeah, we get. I've seen it in my position, working with the GSA at one point, and then all of a sudden there was these 3 levels of gynocentrism above me. One woman was telling me how to. She says, well, the room size. She was doing the fuck. She was an engineer making what I was making on the job, and just doing the engineering specs of the rooms and telling me you need a 120 BTU furnace. I know what I need. but I was doing the work, and there was 3 levels of that above me, and then I looked at the paper, and you all seen that classic GSA, what they had, the big bottle of Moat and the big birthday cake, and that was all coming through your tax money, and that was taking money out of my fucking pocket, you know.
So, oh yeah, the big party they had.
Yeah, the big party they had, and they were giving birthday parties out that were costing some god awful fucking amount of money, and that was gynocentrism there. But there was there's the guys like me that were putting the furnaces in, taking care of the buildings, and doing the actual work, and then I'm getting a letter saying that I have to do some cost-cutting measures.
Yep. One thing that formerly known as Cyborg, he pointed out is in his particular environment, like, so in work email, it would be appropriate for women to send out, like, oh, I'm having a birth or you know, an anniversary or whatever, just personal thing. They could put that out on company email, and it'd be good. It's a personal thing, whatever, and everybody has to respond to it. It becomes part of work culture, right?
It becomes part of that
to
culture.
Placate to the female. But a dude can't say, hey, I just got entered into a golf membership, and you guys want to have a party about it? We couldn't do that. Or any kind of guy-related shit that has nothing to do with a kid or weddings or whatever.
Oh, man, it just makes me want to throw up. It's nonstop with the fucking... with the sending out baby pictures and all this bullshit and having potlucks for fucking.
That's
like,
what they. If you want to get kicked off of my G+ page, send baby pictures or kitten pictures or puppy pictures on there, and you will get kicked off in 1 second. I kicked Matthew McConaughey off. Boom, Matthew McConaughey, you're gone. Baby pictures.
Seriously, he was on there?
Yeah, it was just with that G+ thing where you want to be Matthew McConaughey's friend. I said, sure, that might be cool. And then he sent baby pictures. I was like, Matthew McConaughey, typing it in real fast. You are a dick. You're out of here.
Traversable is a soul Mgtow. I love it.
Yes, relentlessly Mgtow. And that's the thing, like, to be relentlessly yourself. That's a really hard thing to do, because you will wake up one day and you will go through shit and try to placate just to get by the day or the moment, actually. So it is an extremely difficult thing just to be yourself for a whole day. You're relentlessly yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, that's a great. I mean, it's not a small point there. And that is, again, that's why people ask, why does Mgtow have to continue? It's just important because on a day-to-day basis, you're being ground down. You're being prevented from being or you have to comply, right? You're being forced to comply, and you'll lose yourself if you don't continue to recenter and just, you know.
Use a toolbox. It's death by 1,000 cuts if you don't.
Exactly. Yeah, they'll wear you down. I mean, you know, how many wedding potlucks are you gonna go to before you start to just give in?
Yeah, like candle parties with your girlfriend. We're gonna buy some candles today. No.
And it's funny when you're like in a scenario or relationship, like there's an event for fucking everything, you know. And men, I think men like kind of instinctive, like, why the fuck is there an event for everything? Like, she made her first step, or she did this one random whatever. Why are we going to a function where I have to be around your stupid friends? Like, why is that happening? Why is my life made it for going where I don't want to go and doing what I don't want to do? You know, a lot of men that are in relationships or marriages have to do that. What the fuck? But here's the thing, the opposite doesn't occur. Oh, my work is having a function, barbecue, whatever, we need to do it. Do we really have to go? It's so much trouble to bring the kids and whatnot, you know?
There you go, man.
Yeah, you go to your dude friends' houses, you know, it's like they're throwing on steaks and having a beer party. You go, what's this about? And he goes, it's Saturday. Oh, it comes every week, and we do this every week.
Men celebrate just the survival of a fucking week. Women celebrate notions. They just celebrate notions.
Yeah.
I talk to somebody a certain way, or somebody push something out of their pussy. That's a big fanfare, because that doesn't happen often enough, right?
Right. Yeah. That's why I kind of have a special respect for Jehovah's Witness. They're like, they don't celebrate holidays or birthdays, and it's like, yeah, right on. I'm one of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna start. That's I don't celebrate, Christmas or any of those things. I'm gonna just start saying I'm a Jehovah Witness when anybody asks. Hey, Shining, how you doing?
When you're a father, you get this attitude where you don't want to celebrate things, but you do on behalf of your kids. You are easily sucked into the institutionalization of your kids.
Right.
You're co-opting society to dictate what you're going to do. It seems innocuous, like Christmas, but it really isn't. When you celebrate Christmas and you buy shit and you do the whole thing, you decorate with your kids, what you're telling your kids is that I am a fucking robot and I am compliant to this society that's fucked up. It's no other way of looking at it. That's the logical way. I am compliant. I am going to do what the rest of this culture does, and you're going to get presents. And they associate getting something with compliance. Isn't that interesting? We're sending a message when we buy our kids presents at Christmas. We're sending the message that do what you're told and what everybody else is doing, and you'll get something. That's the message we send.
Yeah. Hey, Shining.
Hey guys, VO Troopers still up. 2.5 hours. It's 3 hours now. You put in 3 hours.
Is it 3 hours already?
Yeah, I think you guys have been going for 3 whole hours.
Oh, I didn't even know that. It was we were just flipping and flipping. This is the second half. We're just flipping things around and talking real man shit.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. Just thought I'd jump in if I was needed.
Yeah,
you guys doing okay?
Yeah, you're always needed, Shining.
Such a sweet one of this guy, isn't it? Such a sweet. What would Mgtow be without Traversable over here? So what topics have you guys covered in 3 hours? Wow.
Oh God, we started with everything from. We haven't done movies or a mailbag yet.
The one thing I was talking about, what was the other one that you just said? We did movies.
Oh yeah, we did some movies, and we did Gynocentrism. We did work attitudes and how we're co-opted, and utility. We started off today with the Pussy Pass, I think it was.
Oh, has male feelings vanished?
Yeah, he just dropped out there. I was wondering what happened.
Oh, well, I hope I didn't chase him away.
Oh,
you did. You did. Bastard.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, we've been going 3 hours. That's great. But that's what Sundays are about here, and just kind of doing man stuff on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I was sort of hoping Zeta would drop in. Normally, he's a regular.
Yeah, where is he? I sent him the link, and he hasn't been around lately. I think he's got some computer problems, and he's got to solve that.
Oh well, maybe hopefully we'll see him soon.
Yeah, it was good to have Messenger in before he was.
I got a good topic.
Yeah, what's that?
I got a good topic. Okay, so once we get past all the humps and realizing all this crazy stuff, the red pill stuff, the Mgtow stuff, what does life look like? And obviously, it's not a simple. So, my question is, Shining, what does your day look like? Joe, what does your day look like? And sell that to me, because in some ways we have to sell this what it looks like on the other end, right? You're gonna go through shit, realizing women are all this kind of craziness. So on the other part, the other end of that, what does life look like? I don't think Mgtow talk about that enough.
Yeah,
it's how we live on a day-to-day basis. What we do.
What do you do? How are you? Not necessarily happy. I have issues with that word personally, but like, what do you do to keep going on and be fulfilled and content and all that good stuff? Like, is there obviously you realize that women were not worth the squeeze. Women are juice, it's just not worth it to continue on in that way. So when you're when you rid yourself of that, what does the lifestyle look like? I think some Mgtow that they kind of get into it, but they don't really. Like, what's the day-to-day kind of thing?
Yeah.
I wake up, I do this, I do that.
Yeah,
I feel
I
this
think
way,
it's boring to some people, but I do what I want. I wake up in the morning, I decide what coffee I'm going to drink, I decide what I'm going to put in it, what I'm going to eat. I make these decisions for myself based on what's going to, and it does have to do with happiness. I make all the decisions in my life, what towels hang in my bedroom, my bathroom, what soap I use. There's no more girl stuff hanging around. I eat what I want to eat. My friend will call me on a work day. I'll just start getting the work done and at my pace, and I'm not thinking about what I can bring home to make her happy or do that. I'm thinking about what I can bring home to make me happy. And when I come home, we've all seen our fathers come home and get berated, and he's sitting on a couch and he's just worked a 12-hour day, and he's got to go up and chastise the children. That's as soon as your dad gets home, you're going to be in trouble thing, and then wait till your father gets home, and then I don't have to do that. I sit down on my couch and I'll take that hour for myself, unwind, decompress, think about life. And I don't have to make the dinner right away. And if I don't even want to eat, I don't even have to eat, or I can order a pizza, whatever I want on the pizza. Now that's somebody put this video out once about Mgtow's pizza. Imagine that you order your pizza and you like black olives and sausage with double cheese and a little more sauce on it. You order it that way. You don't have to argue with someone about. And when you get that pizza, there's no green olives or bullshit on it that you don't like. It's what you want. No placation. Doesn't that make you happy to eat something that you want to eat? And it's just these small little things that multiply during the day. It's the same as all those little things that were cutting you, those deaths by 1,000 cuts. You've eliminated these and you replace them with things that make you happy during the day, what you want to do, and that becomes very fulfilling. So there is a measure of happiless here.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you just pinpointed the same the same selling point for romance, like the best kind of romance, the perfect relationship. It's the little things that you remember and love and cherish and miss, but in reality, is it really? You already had those things walking in. The things that you really enjoy about life, the little things. Did you require a partner?
No.
Someone that criticized or had input on every fucking thing you do?
Fucking thing you do, yeah.
Did you really need that, or were you kind of getting on? Or were you already on the road of happiness without them? But you just couldn't resist the urge to fuck or talk to a woman or whatever. Like, come on, let's get that down to brass. It's an addiction to women, and it's going to be a hard thing, but you got to get over it. If you can get over it, you're gonna feel a way that you've never felt before.
Yeah, you have to learn how to live in your own skin too.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Like, ask anybody, what is it like to come, and be poetic about it. Be illustrious. Fucking just go all out, and then do the same thing when describe the moment when you felt happy by yourself, doing your own thing, having self-respect, just chilling. Being a fucking human being, dude. And guess what? If you can describe either of those situations in the first place, you're a fucking poet. You're awesome, or not, whatever. But you're gonna come to the conclusion that just being you and digging life on your own terms, as opposed to fucking placating to a woman, is far greater. It's just being fucking chilling. Like, hey, I exist. I'm cool. I like life.
Even if that is just the simplest thing as sitting down on your couch, watching what you want on TV, and kind of laying back and drifting off and staring out into the middle distance and being, somewhat content in life, that's good.
Yeah, that's fucking terrific because, and here's the thing, there's meaning in that. That's Zen. That's fucking what you're supposed to do. Just fucking life hits you, you take it on its terms, and you find a way to chill with it, relax with it.
Oh yeah, I remember 100 times in my life where I'm just get to the point where I'm chilling, I'm just kind of laying back, and then she walks in the door and she's like, "God damn it, get off that couch and help me bring the groceries in." I was like, "Oh yeah, there goes all that."
You're an able-bodied woman. You see that I am fucking content. Why would you interrupt that? Because you're evil.
They're evil. Yeah, they're always interrupting your contentness, and that's what being a woman.
Like, what, 3.5 minutes of you bringing the groceries in? How would that really interrupt your whole fucking day? Unless you wanted it to. Unless you wanted to make that a focus of the rest of the night. You know, get the fuck out of here. For real? Like, if you come in and you're real happy about it, like, hey, want to help me? And you present the option and be like, actually, no, I'm good right now. I'm good.
Right now.
We can never even tell that to a woman. Here's the thing.
Try telling that to a woman.
You can't do that. Why do we feel that we can't even say that? Like, and if we do say that, we're the same kind of motherfuckers that'll hit them and beat them and rape them. And why is there no gray area where we can, like, they come in, they're bringing groceries. Maybe there was a discussion before, like, well, we don't need to shop today. So why are you doing it? Or you're going to go out and buy a bunch of extra stuff we don't need, and she comes home with all that extra stuff, we're still expected to bring it in. There's a subtle point to be made, but it's lost because most men will placate to that idea. Like, oh, it's just my job to bring it in, and then she spent all the money, but I still have to bring it in.
Yeah, that's the female logic, and she spent $200 on food, but on bullshit, but showed you how she saved 20% of that by using coupons.
Oh, yes, that's their tactic. There was a sale. There's a sale. There's a sale. There's always a sale. You should be proud of me that I found that I was so special enough to find a sale. And so we got this one good for this one price when it was is get the fuck out of here. Men set the prices. It's all artificial and bullshit. So we already know the game. We already know the market's set up. But these bitches feel like they're doing a favor by buying something on sale.
Yeah, by buying something on sale. Yeah. How about you, Shiny? What benefits do you get out of Mgtow?
It sounds cliche, but I always sort of led a half, like a semi, believe it or not, I led a pretty much half monk lifestyle before anyway. You know, I used to do my little, long hours of thinking and thoughts, and I used to read a lot, and I used to spend a lot of time by myself. Ever since I was a little boy, as well. I mean, even though we had a big family, I always used to find a little space in the garden. I used to sit by myself on the swing. Used to play with my little toys. It was always like that. Right up until when I was a teenager, I used to sit in my room a lot. I used to sit in the library a lot. I think Mgtow were just ordinary men, really. I know I've said it in my videos before. We're just ordinary men. We're just taking away that gynocentrism part of us. I mean, that said, I mean, I did used to plan. I know I've said this in front of Heartburn before. I could hear his jaw drop to the ground. I did actually plan on being a father by the age of 19. That didn't happen, by the way. But that was my plan.
That was your plan?
I had a crazy idea. That come like when I was 14, 15, 16, I already had it planned out. I was going to become a single father from a horrible, unfit woman. Isn't that weird? That's exactly what happened to me. And isn't it more weird that a fucking teenager would predict his life in such a way?
Oh yeah.
So obviously, there's some self fucking fulfillment. I made it happen. I obviously chose the wrong woman to have a kid with. And actually, it was different because I thought I was going to be from a non-white woman. I'm like, I'm going to knock up a non-white woman and have the kid and be a single father. The only difference in my prediction as a teenager was that she was white. I don't know if that means anything, but I think it's an interesting detail. Yeah. And so now I'm a single father, 36, with a 10-year-old who's completely out of her mind, and I have to fix it.
You have to fix
totally
it. Yeah.
I never ever thought I'd be. I never thought I'd be in this position. I never thought women were who they are. I never thought the government could be so unjust. No, I never pictured it like this. But
No.
yeah, I think the word you're looking for is self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're so certain
Yeah.
something is
Yeah.
going to happen, you sort of you do actions, you take options and doors that lead to that exact outcome which you dreaded.
Yeah.
But no, I never saw this coming. Like we were saying earlier, I thought I found a very special person. She didn't show any signs of being a stupid bitch at the beginning.
Yeah, I look at, I kind of think little Joey drawing a picture. He draws a little hangman, and the teacher goes like, "What's that, little Joey?" And I said, "Well, that's me. I just hung myself because I picked a baby mama, and she ran me through, and then I became a Mgtow, and then all this stuff gathered, and then I just hung myself. This is what was going to happen in life. No, I didn't. I never even perceived that as being when I was a kid.
Yeah, you don't even think it's a possibility.
We have no outs. We have no like outs or shortcuts or easy ways right now. And the illusion with all this technology and distractions is that we do that, like we're supreme beings and we're on the cusp of like ultimate transformation, and we're going to be in Star Trek in a couple years. This is like, even for the layman who doesn't give a fuck about Star Trek or any of that, they sense everything's going to get better, because it's not the case. It's only going to get better when you take responsibility for your own betterment and stop being dependent on a woman's fucking validation and even other men's validation. Because when you're in the blue pill world, if every man is fucking placating to a female and you're a friend with them, you're going to get the sense that you should too. So you have to kind of choose your friends in a different way when you see the world for what it is.
Yeah, we get that lie told to us that we go to kindergarten and they say that then first grade's going to be so much better. Then we go to middle school and this middle school sucks, and just look forward to that being in high school. And then you go to high school and they go, well, college is going to be so much better. You go to college and then they say, when you get out there into the working, that's going to be so much better. You get out into the working and then your boss goes, someday you're going to get a raise and that's going to be so much better. Your whole life up to the day you die as a male is someday it's going to get so much better.
On a more positive note, though, I think life is mostly what you make it. I mean, yeah, there's some things that are way out of our control, but I mean, you yourself have to create your horizons. You have to build the opportunities, and I think for the most part, life is what you make it.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right, but I think that we live in an era where focusing on the negative, focusing on whatever it is preventing us from making it a better day, that's part of our culture. Like, we become so cynical as a world, as a fucking species. We become so cynical where we don't see the positive.
Yeah.
And you're almost punished if you do. And if you do it in a weird way, which would totally qualify Mgtow in a weird way, you're fucking weird, and you should not be listened to or heard. So I think that's another part of the message that should be put out there. It's like, now that I'm living life on life's terms, but also my own, I feel this way because of this. It's almost like the emotional and rational human being needs to be quantified in a mathematical way, so we can give the formula. And we know that's not true. There is no formula for happiness or contentment. And even if Mgtow presents ideas that are true and valid, a lot of people are going to get mixed up when they don't see an example of, he went through all that shit, and then he's good. He's fucking good. Yeah. So you have to create something to aspire to.
Yeah, do we have to draw out an F to G peak happiness guide? When you're going to get peak happiness in your life?
a lot of Mgtow are very logical, and so when we look at happiness, we can deconstruct it. Is that even a thing? Is that a construct? Like, if you fucking go to sleep one night and not have died or been attacked or injured in any way, you should be thankful in some way. We don't often do it, but like if you can become to the point of mindfulness that you didn't die that day, so that's good. You didn't get injured, so that's good. You're not dying from whatever. That's fucking actually a good day, but we don't think on those terms anymore.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to be consolidated with facts like that. I just want to address a comment on the chat there. Somebody says that they wanted to be a father, but not in this climate. Now, from amongst our critics, one of the main criticisms Mgtow has is that we're going to die alone. We're not going to have any family, we're going to have any children. Now, the thing is, some Mgtow, they've got a lot of children. There's like a certain Mgtow. Well, he calls himself Mgtow. Someone say he's not. He's got 6 kids. You'll see him around. He's got 6 kids. The thing is, if you have children, it doesn't mean that they're going to be with you when you're in old age. It doesn't mean that. And all it means is, generally, for 90% of the men, is you're still going to be old and alone, but you're going to have estranged children, and you're going to have a couple of women that are spreading bullshit about you. That's all it means. Having children doesn't mean you're going to be...
Also, the very fact that you're in this moment and you're internalizing the fact or accepting or pain, anguish, whatever is happening in such a way you realize you're dying, and in that moment, does it really matter that your daughter or your son is there by your side or not? You're totally alone in your mentality of the process of dying, and then guess what? Question mark. Nothing can solve that riddle. There's no other sentence. Well, I've come out on the other side. No. We have reports of whatever, but we have no actual facts what happens in that moment from death to death.
I believe that too.
That's a personal... Everybody dies alone, is what I'm saying. So
yeah, because you get to that certain stage. I mean, before someone actually dies, they seem to generally they go into a coma, but they sort of drift off into their own little world before that. I don't think they're that conscious of the people and the things around it. Now, that's not to say that having people around you is not going to make a difference. We just don't know. But generally, from what we've seen, from what we've observed, from the small, tiny studies, whether however credible they are, it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference. I mean, if we can just sort of like, I don't know, I guess we can compare it to going unconscious, can't we? I mean, we sort of go unconscious every night when we fall into REM sleep. I mean, you're not really aware of the people around.
You're certainly not aware from the moment that you fall asleep to the moment you dream. There's a lapse there. Isn't that a form of death? No?
Do you know what's strange? I can never fall asleep when somebody's in the room. I've noticed that.
No, that's not strange. That's not strange at all. And that kind of hones in with relationship stuff. Like, personally, I can't sleep when there's someone else in the bed the same way I can sleep alone. It's just the way it is. Yeah,
so like when I was with somebody, she always had to sleep in the other room. I don't know, but then I think you get used to it. I think it's probably quite common, and then she gets upset because any of you guys that have been in long-term relationships know that one of the things that the girls love is to go to sleep next to you in the same bed, and then you get used to it, and then when that's gone, you sort of miss it. I don't know, it's a strange thing, but
yeah. But going back to the topic at hand, it's like the big sleep, right? Isn't isn't death just the big sleep? Because no one has any evidence, concrete evidence to suggest there's anything after. Here's the thing, that leaves room for any individual to come up with any kind of thing that happens after. I'm not judging that. If you want to come up like you're going to die and then you wake up and you're surrounded by bunnies and whatever, I don't care. Like, if you need to believe that, that's fine, but we have no evidence of one way or the other. But that doesn't make death that more. Should it make death scarier or not?
It is a strange thing. I mean, doctors will. I mean, I've seen interviews with doctors that have, said some interesting and amazing things during, their long-term serving doctors that have seen death. Now, the thing is, two people can incur the exact same injury, and one person can die from it, and the other person will survive from it. And any doctor will tell you. I mean, they will see two people, and even somebody will suffer less injuries than a certain person who will die from someone who will survive from a more horrific injury. I mean, we've all heard the tales of this man or this woman falling out of a plane, up above the clouds, and they fall out of the plane. They break most of the bones in their body, but they still survive. And then somebody
suggested, like, the will to survive makes the difference. Like, if you like life in some kind of way, or you cling to it, or you are attached to life in some sort of way, you're more likely to survive when it's traumatic. Which is interesting, because that's the exact opposite of what you should do in Eastern philosophies, right? Let go, no attachment, just be chill, meditate your ass off, and you're gonna be good. And
well,
so,
many.
So, like, does that mean that people that do die in circumstances that others don't, mean they're like, fuck it, life isn't that worth it, let's just get out of here? Like maybe that's the last moment of thought. Like, you know what, it wasn't that worth it. It just was not worth it. Who knows? It's hard to tell.
Well, many people have claimed that they've come back from the dead. It's like they were dead for like 2 or 3 minutes, and doctors will say that as well. Their heart stopped. They were medically dead. Their bodies ceased, and then they got resuscitated, and they'll say they had this after death or near death experience.
But the weird thing about that is that, like, for a long time, from ancient to, like, what, I don't know, 1900s, it was like 1900s, it was a certain kind of story, and it usually was, Judeo-Christian kind of a thing, white light tunnel, and then, there's been some weirdness now. Like, now it's like, oh, I was kidnapped, or some existential, like, I was one with math. Like, I like that one. I was one with math. That's actually a cool thing. Like, we get these different kind of scenarios. So, like, culture dictates our narration or reporting of after death, right? So if culture can dictate that, how we report it obviously dictated how we were primed or set up to even perceive it, which makes the whole thing mute in a weird way, but more valid. And then we get in this, like, clusterfuck of reality on how to experience or even see death. Because some countries see death as a celebration. They were awesome, let's celebrate. Other countries, like, oh my god, they died, I'm going to cry my eyes out because they're not here anymore. It's so weird.
Well, yeah, if you believe in a hereafter, obviously death is a celebration. And obviously if you don't, then death is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, y'all, like we're all on overtime talking about death.
Okay.
You haven't weighed in for a moment. What do you got to say?
Oh, I don't know. Do you guys think it's time to wrap this thing up, or you guys want to keep going, or?
It's up to you. I'm flexible.
yeah, well, it's 1 a.m. over here, so
Yeah,
I was only gonna pop in at the end, but yeah,
Okay, yeah, it's palatability's sake, and 3 hours we go too long, and it takes people a week to go through our garbage, and then it's just.
Well, yeah. There's lots of activity in the chat box. There's no shortage of people there. Lots of new faces. Let's give everyone a shout out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we got Eric, of course. He's sorry, Eric. I had to avert my eyes. He was actually making me laugh. I couldn't read his comments. I don't know. I think these guys know how to get me now. And you got Howard there. He's just opened. He seems to be a newbie to Mgtow. Welcome.
He's been making some good videos. I've been watching Howard's videos, and I've been really kind of enjoying them the last few weeks. And I made a few comments over there. I like Howard's new videos. Fist of Mgtow.
Oh yeah. What happened to Fist of Mgtow? He hasn't done no video for a while. Yeah, Island Cyclone. I've seen him around, but yeah, he's pretty new.
Yeah.
Douglas Gavison. I was not seen this guy before. Welcome.
Douglas, welcome Douglas to Mgtow. Yeah. There's a Lilith the Dragon. I was confused about that before, and then we have to clear that up.
Yeah, I think that's Purple Zombie. The Purple Zombie goddess guy.
Is that the Purple Zombie? Okay. No, I don't know if that's the Purple Zombie.
It is the Purple Zombie goddess guy.
Is it the Purple Zombie guy? Okay.
Yeah, it is. A new channel. I've got a feeling this is a guy that's well, forgive me if I'm wrong, but he's certainly got a new account. This Ben Volgcast.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah.
Ben Volgcast.
Yeah, I just seen 5-speed manual.
Oh, 5-speed manual. Yeah.
So he's one of the regulars.
I think there's an account called 4-speed manual.
4-speed manual. Yeah. Good thing you got 5-speed manual.
Good speed, you got the 5-speed.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm Mgtow. I'm Mgtow causing trouble as always.
HD as always. Eric. Yeah. Pants on Fire 226.
He comes to know me.
Yeah, Douglas Garrison. And that's about all in a cast of thousands.
Oh, I didn't see him, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna wrap this up, guys, and it's been a good day. We had a bunch of good chats. If you haven't seen the one earlier, it's a really, really good chat. We got a lot accomplished in that, and then we went through a lot of things, and just being, learning how to be better Mgtows and learning how to be more happy, content in our life, and that's important because guess what, guys? You are valuable. You are important. And no matter what the gynocentric says, you have worth. And with that, we're going to wrap this thing up.
Thanks for that.